Okay, so after a little bit of pre-gaming with my nephew and talking about Milan and talking about vacationing there with Justin and then sport with Ubiquitous and the Masters and everything, we're here podcasting about WoW. Let's fucking do it. Let's introduce the guests. Get straight into it. The one and only incredibly wise and handsome Tim Jones from the Classic team is in the audience listening in, so this will be a fun one for the boys. Yubi, mate, how are you? How's things?
I'm well, showing my face again after a bit of a hiatus, but
Yeah,
here we are.
fucking, they always come crawling back, don't they, Zim?
Always.
Always. They can't resist the sweet siren song of Josh Corbett. All right, here's Arcos to talk shit to Tim. Very good. I'm glad he's fucking popped up. Arcos hasn't slept in fucking... Arcos isn't going to sleep for a week. He's going to be like a vampire. It'll be great. Wait, vampires sleep during the day. But anyway... Zim, mate, my understanding is that you have done the Scarlet Enclave. You and your guild of, the fucking wrecking crew that it is has done 5 bosses. Is that correct?
Looking at it now, it looks like we did 4 out of 8 on the first night.
4 out of 8 first night, and no more since?
We're going back in tomorrow.
Very good, very good. And Yubi, you are in the peanut gallery with me, having not touched any of this but watched on Twitch. Is that right?
Yeah, I've just watched a bunch of it, and I'm just trying to catch up at the moment.
Very good, very good. All right, boys. Look, let's get into it because this is. I don't want this to turn into the same old countdown conversation that we've had 4 fucking times over the last 14 months about, I mean, it's going to be hard to avoid because we have to do it to a certain extent, but it's about raid difficulty. It's about what the classic player base has come to expect. It's about my old comments about things like fucking beer in hand raiding and fun and all that shit. But it really is a little bit different this time because we're doing it within the true context of new content. Now, you can do the argument about whether or not fucking Black Fathom Deeps or Sunken Temple and everything was quote unquote new content. I mean, you could easily say it was because it's brand new boss mechanics and everything, even if it's just done within the environs of an old dungeon. But this is truly, I think it's fair to say, pushing the needle a little bit further towards the new side of new content. So no and this is so key to remember when we're talking about this. No PTR, no nothing. Every man and woman and their dog is going into this raid sight unseen. We know nothing. And this is not, the norm for the classic player base. They are very used to being incredibly well-versed with the content. They've got all the strats. They know it inside and out as though they coded the fucking thing. And because of that knowledge, they are not the kind of gamers that are particularly open at the best of times to roadblocks or speed bumps in their raiding, nights. And I've tried to really push this conversation about how we as classic gamers deal with the concept of prog or progression, through what is now obviously a product delivering new content and, what's to come in Classic Plus next, what's coming now with Season of Discovery. It's really challenging the classic player base to be like, hey, you guys like to raid. That's most of the reason why a lot of you play World of Warcraft. So let's talk about what raiding means to you and how hard you want to be pushed or how little you want to be pushed when you are doing raid night with the boys and girls. So with all that preamble out there, Ubiquitous, let me just start with you, mate, and say... we'll go very general as we do. I'll do the easy ones first and just say, look, let's put difficulty aside for 5 minutes, boys, and just talk about the fun factor and the general presentation and look of the raid. Ubiquitous will be able to talk about the look. Zim will be able to talk about the feel. Ubi, did this look to you like a raid you want to get your teeth stuck into? Does it look fun?
Yes, to me. I think it looks really interesting. I've been out of this since before AQ even came out, but
yeah,
you went
on your Dota Silver run or whatever, didn't you?
Yeah, I went on a Dota binge. But watching Arcos's stream and I'd already seen this way back in MC and stuff, but They do have the retail look to some mechanics, like the AoE effects and stuff, but I like that rather than it being blind. But in terms of the actual, if you mean the appearance of the environment, I think the raid looks pretty cool
Well,
inside as well.
I mean, I'm more mean. Does it look fun? You're taking
Yeah,
all the factors
nice.
into account here, going like number of ads, number of bosses, the mechanics that the bosses present, the how the again, it's kind of hard not to weave difficulty in this conversation, but a little bit of the difficulty involved as well. But like, as I say, it's more like as an outsider looking in, do you see this? Because I presume it would have been very easy for you to watch this as a viewer and say like, oh, well, this raid looks shit. I was going to come back to SOD, but I'm not going to do that. But obviously that's not what happened. But I mean, that could have happened, right?
Yeah, it could have been underwhelming, but I mean, listeners with a good memory will know that I've harped on about how cool would a Scarlet Crusade raid be since like phase one, and I think they've exceeded my lofty expectations. Like it's more well done than I really thought we were ever going to get in SOD. Like when it was a case of we might get a new raid, I was thinking like Kara Crypts as the dungeon would kind of be the peak. This has just blown that out of the water in how fully fleshed out and hectic it looks. So
All right.
I'm thoroughly surprised and happy that that's
I
what we've.
can I ask honestly though, just as a quick tangent, are you surprised, like given how much we've glazed the previous raid content of Season of Discovery, that we've done the reviews at the end of every phase, and people when we talk about the raids in this overall thumbs up or thumbs down for phase 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., people have generally been incredibly positive towards the level up raids, and again, whether or not you call it new content. The stuff that has been made for Season of Discovery being the quote unquote end game at 25, 40, 50, 60, people have been like, yeah, Tim and the crew have done a fucking fantastic job. These things are really fun. So are you surprised that the Scarlet Enclave is good?
No, I mean I'm surprised by how big of a new thing it is. Like
Right. The
if it was
scale of
just
it.
if it was five bosses and a 10 man, I think it would still be a positive review.
Right.
But this is a fully fleshed out, brand new level 60 raid that is continuing our power spike beyond max. So that's what I mean by I'm surprised. Like this is full blown, like almost this is 100% authentic classic plus, but with SOD abilities and stuff on it. Like that's the tier that I've put this in. This raid is
All right.
almost what you would have bought a new box to get.
All right.
Is what I'm saying.
Let me throw it to Zim and we say hello to DC Green. Hello, mate. How are you?
Cool.
You doing well?
Good, yeah.
That's the way.
Excited to listen and
All right, I can hear the shit-eating grin on his face because he's ready to fucking go. He's been teeing off in the Discord. Tim, this will be a fucking fun one for you to listen to when DC Green gets started on his fucking monologue. But anyway, we'll get there. He wants to drop in off the top rope. Zim, before we get to DC, mate, you've done the raid. You've done half the raid. I'll start you off with basically the same general question that I gave to Ubiquitous. I asked him, as a viewer, does it look fun, like you want to get involved? And he said yes. But I'll ask you, as a player who's now done some of the content, did this live up to, as Ubiquitous said, the lofty expectations that the classic community had for this raid? We built a fair bit of hype up around this thing. And, to be fair, it's of the classic teams doing as well, going like, hey, we got the big winku at the end of the presentation at BlizzCon, Scarlet something. Ooh, it's going to be a Scarlet raid, boys. Here we are 14 months later or 15 months later, 16, whatever it is, fucking doing it. We've been talking about it for the last month since it's been announced. We're all excited. People have been hoping for this in a Classic Plus-esque environment for maybe years. Zim, does it live up to the hype?
I'm gonna have to say, yeah, I think it does, absolutely. Being in there, like as soon as you step in, it's almost like it's a completely new experience. So it really touches that classic, vibe, and you have to figure it out. Which I was real, I was like, wow, I haven't actually had to do prog in a while, but just the aesthetics and the presentation of the raid, the mobs, like there is a ton of trash, and I saw that they've already pushed out some nerfs on it, which is probably for the best. But it's a hell of a raid, and honestly, if there's folks just getting back into the game, this is definitely going to be something that's different than your traditional classic.
It's funny you point out the trash, because just as our first sort of side note on this raid, but particularly with the spotlight on the content and the choice of the devs in relation to what we're presented with, I think it'd be remiss of me not to point out that there's an interesting relationship between the player base and trash in a raid. Obviously, the vast majority of people say that less is more when it comes to trash, and people generally just want to rock it from boss to boss. And I know other MMOs basically don't have trash in raids. You do just go from boss to boss. But, trash is part of the game in WoW, and that's all fine. We've come to accept it. There's certain standout raids where it does get particularly egregious, like your Mount Hygels, like your, Sunken Temple in Season of Discovery, where people really did speak out against the trash in Sunken Temple and say, this is a headache. Like, can we do something about this? And something I believe was eventually done. It's funny because, like, whilst I don't want a raid teeming with trash, I, for whatever reason, wasn't particularly upset by what was presented to us initially in Sunken Temple, but everyone else was having a huge blow up about it. And the Classic team eventually said, okay, you're right, we'll either... I don't think they delete the trash, but as you say, they tweak their HP, so it's not quite as arduous to get through. But Zim, the one thing that I noted, as again, your fucking dad gamer, who, again, guys, for whoever needs to hear this as a reminder, I do not raid. I've done 0 raids in fucking Kata that I'm playing like a fiend at the moment. I've not raided in Season of Discovery since I did 3 Molten Cores. That's you guys know I'm not a raider, so this is the outsider looking in, or even just the non-raider trying to comment on raiding content. But as a viewer, I was watching these Race to World First streams going fuck me, this is an insane amount of trash. I was like, this is really taking the piss, in my opinion. Did it feel obnoxious to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I did appreciate is the varying types of trash. Obviously, once you have the Scarlet mobs and whatnot, I think my favorite trash in there is the dragons. I don't know if you saw any of that. The little whelplings or whatever.
No.
Yeah. So basically, if you kill one before the others, they all explode and chonk the hell out of your raid team. So it's there are mechanics with some of the trash, and it causes you to actually pay attention, which I like. But they did have a ton of health, and you just felt like you're just all right, next pull, and you're just, okay, is this a boss? No, it's a mini boss. Okay, and you're just going from mini boss to mini boss, trash. But I mean, overall, I had the most fun raiding when we went in than I've had in, I don't know, probably the past 3 phases.
Tell me why.
It's different, man. It was I raid because I want a challenge, not just I do like a beer in hand raiding every now and then, but I want to clear the hardest content, and you definitely need to have a good raid team to get in here and get past the first 2 bosses. And I was like, hell yeah, I think it's a huge accomplishment, just getting in there and clearing it. Getting as far as we did.
Did it touch you in all the right spots that you wanted to be touched in terms of lore, aesthetics, vibes?
Oh yeah, I think it definitely. I like the Scarlet Crusade, like the vibe and the whole, who hasn't been to Scarlet Monastery, and I think it goes with the lore and everything. It's just the boss lineup is pretty phenomenal, and I think their abilities that are tied in with the bosses as well also reflect kind of the lore, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I dig it.
All right, very good. DC Green, our wrestling heel, mate. I said to the boys before you jumped in, and I'll just reiterate for you, trust me, in very, very short time, we are getting to the huge conversation about raid difficulty. I just want to stay away from that just for this opening stanza. And first and foremost, we'll clarify, have you just watched the raid at this point, or have you done it?
Yeah, we're going in tomorrow, so I haven't done it yet. I've only seen various streams. Some people in my guild have multiple alts, so they've done it with the guilds that their alts are in. So there's been a lot of kind of discussion about it and reports, and I've heard a lot of comments and stuff like that. But just I think it looks awesome. Like the raid looks fantastic. I think that the scaling, the kind of like ramparts of Tyr's Hand and jumping in is like really cool. Like I love Tyr's Hand as a zone. It's always been like a really cool place to me. And it's a good farming spot for a rogue. So like I have a lot of like external hours in there. The raid is kind of like personally like just really, really cool to me. And I like everything that I saw, aside from the fact that people can kill stuff, but the design, the flavor, the aesthetic, it's all like 10 out of 10. Like this is like what we signed up for when we first got enticed with SOD. They're banging on the same level that they did Karazhan with. So right. I think it looks superb, and I love it. A lot of people are gonna love it.
I love to hear it, but obviously I can very much hear the silent and tentative but sitting behind everything that you just said. Okay.
No, I don't think I think that when I was arguing in the Discord the other day, I think people probably like misinterpreted what I was saying. So I'm happy to clarify later when we get into it.
Well, we'll get into it now. It's always, look, I'll agree with you. I'm the worst over text. I hate Discord. I hate text messages. I hate everything because people are horrible, and I include myself in this, at conveying either emotion, sarcasm, anger, true meaning, all that kind of shit. It's very, very hard over text and much easier over fucking voice, where you can hear the nuance of people's tone, volume, the passion behind what they're saying, and whether or not people are joking or they really mean what they're saying. So we've got you in voice now, so that's good. I mean, and I said some things that I reflected on with you yesterday in the Discord that I think were probably not well clarified, or maybe even just wrong takes the more I thought about them. So it'll be good to talk it over a bit more here. But mate, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm not, please, DC Green, I'm more poking fun. Like, I'm not here to deter you from, if you have a passionate negative point about this raid. Trust me, mate, the point of this podcast is for you to launch in on that point. And I love that Tim is here, because Tim has very thick skin, mate. He can take it, be as brutal as you want to be on Tim and his baby. But obviously it just comes with the caveat, and I know you wouldn't do this, but as long as, you're not a fucking typical dickhead gamer cockhead who's just a cunt, Tim can take it. Just give your point the air, mate. What was the one thing that bothered you about the raid?
Okay, so first of all, you said something a little earlier that I want to like add some nuance to. You referred to us as like classic gamers, and you kind of put us all in this bucket that sounds like we all just want like the raid content to be like brain dead easy or whatever, and that we can just do it with the boys. But like, I don't consider myself a classic player. Okay, I'm a WoW enjoyer. So the idea that like, because I play classic, that I wouldn't like stuff that is in retail right now is that seems really like not insulting, but
I hear what you're saying.
Misdirecting.
That's fair. I hear what you're saying. Allow me to retort. Just allow me to say this and retort very quickly, DC Green, with, whilst obviously every individual is going to be a case by case basis. Okay. I completely understand and respect, and who am I to tell you what you like, that you are not of that class of people or gamer. I very much so understand that. Hey, Josh, fuck you, man. Don't throw me in that bucket. I love a challenge. That's great. But the one thing I would push back with, DC Green, is I believe, and I'm more than happy to tell you, for you to tell me if I'm wrong on this, I believe it would be naive to think that the majority, being a percentage over 50% of the classic player base, would happily welcome a challenge like retail would present.
You think less than 50% don't?
No, I think more than 50% of the classic player base is very comfortable with low difficulty raids, and when they are presented with any form of mild difficulty, they turn the game off.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. I'm just speaking on behalf of like, I play Classic because it has elements, or it's preserved certain elements about the game and the way that it's developed that like retail has like lost sight of. There's things about retail more holistically about the game rather than like the raid content and stuff in it. Because like the raid content and the mythic dungeons and stuff like that all looks cool. I'm sure if I played retail, I'd be competing with who's the other guy on the stream that like does all the mythic content and like he's always pushing like ranks and stuff. I'm sure I'd be one of those.
Like Jason and John.
Yeah, but I just don't play retail because there's a lot of things about it that like I feel like kind of like WoW's integrity was kind of like lost over time, and I feel like Classic is just like a little bit closer to like what I like.
Right.
In terms of like what the game prioritizes in this state. So that being said, like when they say we're going to give you guys like actually challenging content, you know, I'm there with like my fork and my knife ready, like drooling and frothing at the mouth, right? Like I want this. So the issue that like I kind of saw in the raid, because like I'm watching Simonize's, you know, Simonize do it on the first day, which I assume most people were because his stream was pinned on the top of Wowhead. So I think that like a lot of people probably got their first kind of impressions of this raid by watching his stream. And the thing that I was perturbed by was that the raid was just like very overtuned. Both Balnazar, you know, Balnazar got like flash nerfs like while it was being pulled. And then obviously like Beatrix got some flash nerfs and then got like a proper like hotfix or whatever with like patch notes and stuff like that. And when I see like these players, because like by the way, my guild like we got 5th in speed kill rankings for Nax, which we were happy with. We would have liked to have gotten a little bit better, right? But top 5's world pretty good. Standards, the guild that Simonize was raiding with, they got number 1. So they like these are like from my perspective, I'm literally watching like some of the best players in the world. Like these 20 players that are in this raid right now, they are in like the top 100 players, probably even in the top 50 players like that play the game. So when you see them like wiping multiple times, like not even getting close, like resetting the instance multiple times so that they can kind of try different strategies, they get so desperate to the point where they're like, well, maybe we should use this cheesy reflect trinket to like try and beat the boss because like we're literally at our wits end for like being able to do it. I think there's an issue with that, especially if you look at it from the optics standpoint of like Simonize constantly saying the entire time that like he's not having fun, these mechanics aren't fun. Like he specifically like he was constantly saying how it's lame that like for the first boss you can't use any GCDs because you need to be able to kick the 1 second fear, and basically if you're on GCD you're gonna miss it. Like things like that seem very unfun, and he's saying that like the raid is not meant for you, it's meant for like the elite of the elite of the elite. Like these don't seem like good optics for me. So I kind of take issue with this idea that and it's kind of created this this really disingenuous argument within the community with like, oh, so everyone just wants like the bosses just be face roll loot pinatas, and it's like no, you know, their blue post about the raid coming out said that it was going to be challenging. So when I see the best players like wiping ad nauseum, I'm like, oh, well, this isn't challenging, it's impossible. Like it could get to a point where it's challenging, but it wasn't released that way.
Can we this is a great point to jump in. Sorry, I know you're on a tear, but just a word you've said there has piqued my interest, and this will be to go around the table for Zim and Yubi and everyone, but I have to pull you up there because my hyperbole alert has gone off, and I've heard you use the word impossible. You've said this is impossible. This is impossible. Okay. I have to probe now, and again, I've got things to say about this, but I sort of want to more hear from you guys on this. So I'll try to frame this in the context of a question, and just say, on this point that DC Green is raising on, you know, top guilds, you know, streamers like Simonize saying this is not fun as they hit the wall, and the difficulty is very obvious. And to be fair, Blizzard, like you said, they've already changed things. Mild nerfs have already gone out in an acknowledgement towards, okay, maybe we went a bit too far, and they've dialed that down a little bit on a couple of things. It was very obvious to even the layman watching streams that Beatrix was out of control. I think personally that's fair to say. Even in an understanding that we're dealing with unseen mechanics and new content, and that's going to be the key point to needle in on here. Beatrix still seemed a bit silly, so I'm not disagreeing with you, DC, but I do believe there's more nuance to this conversation rather than just throwing your hands up and being like, this is too hard on day one, fuck you all, fuck you Blizzard, you fucked up. So Zim and Ubiquitous will go first in best dress. I just want to pose this question of, do you agree with DC Green that this was blatantly over the top? Or is there something to the argument that a Grend raises in his, again, very well worded blue sky
I think we should get to that separately.
We will get to it separately, but I have to bring in something he said in it here, in terms of, he mentioned the point that classic players aren't used to new content. The concept of progression has been completely changed to the classic player. And I know you want to lose your mind here, DC. Just wait. But I do believe this, that our relationship with the concept of progression is very different in the classic player base than it is with the retail player base. So have we lost touch with what it's like to go through prog?
Yes.
Or is the concept of prog something that should be taken out the back old yellow style, because that's not what classic gamers want, and the devs need to realize that? Ubi, let me throw it to you first.
Yeah, I think it has been massively. I think the average classic player is extremely bad at saying, maybe I'm not actually doing this perfectly within 3 hours of it being live. Like, I'll throw it back to just doing like ICC. We had fucking videos, and lo and behold, your guildies would go in there and fuck things up. And you've got 15 years of research and like strategies to go off. This is literally blind, and these guys really think they're doing these encounters flawlessly just because they are currently the best guilds. I would not be shocked if they go back next week and they're immediately way better at everything with no additional items or anything, like just from practice. But we just don't like that in classic. But that's just the reality. Like, even when we've been doing old shit, you get better at it. Just like you make quantum leaps between week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
You'll go there and it won't feel impossible anymore. Some of the numbers were definitely a bit off on some of the fights, but I think there's almost just like this, I'm in a top 12 guild in the world. I should be able to go in and clear it in 3 hours. Like, fuck, you should. You should go in there and wipe for a week, and then like the actual median guild will be happy to go 3 of 8 or whatever it would be, like on any given progression week. Like, that's what we did in classic. Like, all like Cata raids come out, and that's old shit that we know how to do, and people go fucking mad. My ordinary guild went 5 of 10 on heroic, and they prog old shit, and we don't want to prog new stuff. Like, that's what blows my mind. You're going in blind. That is, knowledge is the biggest, like, it's the thing that makes this game the hardest. The game itself isn't difficult. It's only hard because this is new and you don't know the mechanics. And like, you will get so much better at them in the next fortnight. Like, you can't, it would be ridiculous to think that you're genuinely playing this game flawlessly when it's a new boss fight.
Zim, hit me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with Ubi. I mean, the only thing I kind of caveat off of that is they do this every time they either revamp a raid, introduce a new raid. It's always usually overtuned, and then they have to go back and kind of take it off. And I would rather they do that. I would rather they implement something that's so hard that's like, oh shit, this is kind of a struggle, and then I'd let it sit for a week, and then you roll out the next reset. That's when you put in all your hot fixes and your patch notes and whatnot, because kind of what Go's saying in the chat there, people should have the opportunity to try it during the first week, right, before any nerfs come out, so they don't miss the oh wow, like it Lady Vosh and KT, like it was kind of like a notch on your belt if your guild was able to get those down before the nerf. And I feel like it's nothing new that with any raid that's come out in the past 20 years, they usually come out super strong, and then they have to reel it back and put in a few nerfs, so it's more available to the player base, which I think is fine. But yeah, if you're going into the raid thinking, yeah, this is going to be easy, you know, we're going to raid our 3 hours, 4 hours tonight and get our clear on this brand new content that nobody's ever seen before, because, you know, we're so good or whatever, then you're fooling yourself and you're setting yourself up for a bad time.
All right, Sinner's heard something that's triggered him. He's in here. He wants to fly in off the top rope alongside with DC Green. Sinner, mate, how are you? Tell us what's on your mind.
Doing okay. Like no, but like what Zim just said is incredibly true. Like imagine if you play a game and then you end up going to the last boss and it topples over. How fun is that? Like, I think everyone would feel kind of disappointed with how things ended. And even more so if you have a raid that is too easy and then it ends up getting like buffed because it's too easy. You could clear it last week, but this week you can't because now it's the actual intended difficulty. That would also feel like shit. Starting at a bit too difficult and going down is a lot better.
Okay. DC, mate, we'll come back around to you. Let me just, I know I want to hear everything you got to say in reply to what you've just heard. I'll add in the following flavor. And just say another thing that stood out from what you were saying just in your little opening bit there, when you were talking about Simonizer's reaction to the content. And I remember you mentioning this in the Discord chat, saying, look, Simonize, you know, who's been a champion of SOD, been really pro SOD this whole time, is out there publicly saying, like, this raid is not fun. What are we doing? What are we doing? To weave in Ubiquitous and Zim's and Sinner's answers there, I want to pose to you, do you believe that when you hear Simonize say, whilst, you know, it's his subjective opinion and I can't tear that away from him, what do you think is behind an answer from him saying something like this is not fun? Do you believe it is holistically mechanics? Like, oh, these are poorly designed mechanics. These mechanics are not fun. What do you mean I can't kick here? What do you mean this? What do you mean that? In terms of pure gameplay? Or do you believe that potentially, you know, maybe up to half of the reason he's saying this isn't fun is because his elite guild of assassins wasn't fucking slamming shit straight away?
So I think specifically, I think a lot of the unfun comment was directed at, and I agree that this is unfun, that when something has a cast speed so fast that you literally can't cast abilities because you have to sit there and be able to you have to dedicate all your reaction time just to that cast ability. So
isn't that gaming? There, like, isn't that gaming though? I want to be obnoxious here. Is that not gaming? When it's like I'm going to sacrifice a couple of offensive GCDs and my DPS for the sake of interrupting something.
It's not a couple.
I don't know.
I'd literally be standing there with my finger on Z, which is my kick key.
Yeah.
And I just wait for the cast bar to appear, and I'm just auto attacking. I cannot press another button. This mechanic would be entirely fine if it's like a few expansions later. If it's off the GCD.
Because I'm unsure. How big of a window? But how big of a window are we talking here? Like, how long are you idle for? I'm not sure.
No, but I don't know the window. I don't know if it's a random cast and all the timers and shit.
It's a 1 second cast, so you could just make it 1.5, and I think.
Wait. Are you seriously saying that people are bitching about not interrupting a 1 second cast? Are you being fucking serious? Are you being fucking serious right now?
He was saying that it's not fun to sit there and not press buttons.
No, I'm gonna fucking I am about to rage and blow my gasket because I know exactly why that fucking comment is being thrown out there, because this is all in the name of passing and fucking damage my ego. What do you mean I have to fucking...
No, Josh is right on this one. I mean, yeah, it's a 1 second cast. You don't need to interrupt it. I mean, Fear Ward is a thing, right? Tremor totems are a thing if you're, horde.
Well,
but either way, you can have one dedicated guy.
How many players do you have in that raid with an interrupt to think that not one of them will fucking be able to hit it? That like, oh, I had a GCD up, I can hit my kick here.
No, well, how it's been explained to me is that, let's say you're playing your rogue and you are literally just going poke, kick. You don't get to press mutilate. You don't get to press envenom. That's how it's been explained to me. If it's a little bit, it's like I remember being the kick on Vezax in Ulduar. That was okay because it was DPS for about 10 of the 15 seconds, and now my kick's coming around, and I just got to make sure that I have energy pooled, and then I kick, and then I go back to DPS, DPS, DPS. If this is legitimately, I would do this boss fight with one hand if it was just I have to kick an auto attack, and I would just wait for that cast bar. That is very boring. Like, that's just boring for one player.
I don't think it's not about like, oh, I have to kick, and so my parse is sacrificed. There's been plenty of raid bosses up till now where you have to kick, right? Like KT, like you need like dedicated kick rotations.
Yeah. So what are we arguing about? I'm a bit unsure.
It's that the cast time is 1 second, and so you literally can never be on GCD. So you have to ask certain people to essentially not play their class and be a kick bot. And that's, I would argue that does fall into like unfun. I think that you could design it in a way that is slightly more engaging for the people that's their responsibility to do.
I still,
and it does seem like it would be
call me an idiot. I still disagree. I think there's other tactics around that. You don't have to designate a kick bot necessarily, someone who doesn't get to press their buttons. Like, you've got 20 fucking people in the raid. I'm just like, I'm not with you on this one. I don't know.
If you do it if you don't make someone the kick bot and everyone's DPSing, every single person is gonna have their GCD locked when it's going out. Like, you would literally, you must assign someone as the
just set a rotation like everything else.
Well, there was a lot of
but then you just have, you've got a rotation, but there's still like, someone tell me, is there like a DBM timer and you know that it's only going to cast every 15 seconds? Or is it like just random? Could he try to fear 3 times in 5 seconds?
It's also the first week, so all that DBM and all those weak auras, everything is not going to be up to date. So it's like, oh man, maybe I should learn the fight on the first night and figure it out.
I think it's important to couch this in the reality that this was happening like literally within minutes of the raid opening, and so they were like learning the boss as it was going, and so maybe they could have employed strategies that leverage Tremor Totem or something else to that effect, but because they were like they just came to the conclusion that the best way to do it was to just have people like not pressing abilities except for kick. And so that caused him to, make the unfun comment. And as someone watching it and as someone else that plays a rogue, I'm just sitting there like, dude, I don't want to have to be the fucking guy that's going to have to do this in my raid. Like, I don't want to sit there and just like, I'm staring at a cast bar and like my energy is full and I have no combo points and I don't have slice and dice up because like you have to stay there the entire time and wait for this thing. That just seems
I think there's really other tactics. I think that's a weird fucked up meta pass brain taking over. Like, I don't assigning a kick bot is odd.
Now that I've got all that context, I kind of feel like this is just a sobering reality that they didn't get to walk into a raid and dunk on it.
I think it's weird that
I don't think it's
DC. I think it's weird that you keep saying. I think it's weird that you keep saying it's not about passing, because I think it is actually entirely about passing. This is listen. This is about fucking the best of the best players bitching that they don't get to pump, mate. Every single one of my fucking GCDs as one of the best players in the world is for fucking offense, baby. How dare you make me fucking do something else? I think there's a little bit of that in there.
Dickhead right now, man.
Nah, fuck that.
Like, that's arguing good faith. Like, I'm not making.
How is that not in good faith? This is how fucking these players play. They live for the 99.
No, I think
you're painting them with a broad brush, saying that they're all like.
Oh, because they've acted so different over the years, DC. They've given me so much examples of them being really team players.
Can we just calm down for one moment? Well, like, there is a difference between doing the maximum amount of DPS and being allowed to push your buttons. If all I had to do for the entire fight was just sit and wait, I would not think that is fun. I am not saying that's like I'm not commenting whether or not that's the case, but I am saying that it is not fun. And for the people who say that the 1 second is fine, would it really, like in the bigger picture point of view, would it really be that big of a deal if it was 2 seconds, so people could keep DPSing, people could do all these things?
Where's the skill? Where's the skill on kicking a 2 second cast? I don't get it.
No one cares about kicking. We care about that we can't do anything.
So that's the thing. We don't care about skill. We care about pumping. We care about just being gifted opportunities to stop a cast.
To press your buttons.
Yeah, to pump. That's what you're saying. We play a class to pump is what you're saying. That's the underlying thing.
Josh, it's a lower skill ceiling.
being
to
disingenuous.
I'm not being.
it's
How
a
am I
lower
fucking
skill
being
ceiling to
disingenuous?
kick.
Tell me, DC.
You're being so fucking disingenuous.
Please tell me. Do you have to
Holy
explain?
shit,
You can't
man.
just say it. You have to explain it.
I think,
dude, it's
we've
obvious.
just
You're
seen-
just taking the position that people that are in top guilds, like all they care about is like the 100 on the sheet at the end of the fucking, or at the log at the end of the fight, and that's not true. And if you
Then
watch
why
this
is the
raid,
culture
that's
around
not
the?
even
Then why is the
position that
culture
Simon was
around the
taking.
game the way it is? Then, if we were such a
Well, I'm
fucking.
not arguing about the culture. Like, I'm not here to defend like the entire culture or anything like that. I'm here to defend my own arguments. And the arguments that I'm making and the position that Simon was taking are the same, and you're treating it totally differently. You're obfuscating and making it hard to like, have this
I think you're
conversation.
squabbling without factoring in like the momentous shift that this raid itself might have brought into the culture. The culture's been the culture because I'm doing BWL for the 4,000th time, and the only thing that's fun about doing Valstraz again is pumping. But now this is new content. It's completely different. This is the first time in what fucking 7 years that we've been playing this, 6 years, that the priority is now we're progging. This is
Kill
like
it.
Classic Plus territory. Just kill it.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
you
to kill
guys,
it, not to pump. Or
you
not
are
to get
arguing
pushed.
about where we've been, but this is what
But
I've been
then,
ranting
but this
about
is
for the last
this is my
48 hours.
thing. If the objective is to kill it, why is the only strategy we must have a kick bot? And sorry, guys, one of you has to not have fun and not press your buttons and just wait on the kick, as opposed to thinking outside the box. And tell me, Josh, you're not a raider. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh my god, shut the fuck up. But like, why aren't players being told, hey, sit on your GCDs? Like maybe we like go 2 seconds between using offensive abilities and play the odds that one of you fuckers is going to have a fucking non-GCD locked kick up when we need it.
Well, they were hordes, so like supposedly they could have been using Tremor Totem, but I have to imagine because of the lengths that they went to kick the fears that wasn't a viable strategy.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing-
the real
many
crux of
shamans
the
they have in
argument
there?
is like if you have a mechanic that's so tight that like you can't really like play your character, I'm just arguing that that's not. I'm arguing that it's not fun. Like you can do it, and people are going to do it because we want to kill the boss. But like I just stand that like if I have to sit there and not press anything other than kick, I don't think that's very fun.
On this kick for an hour. It's SOD. Fucking hell, give rogues a rune that makes it off the GCD, and then you like a utility. You can put it on for the fights where you need it. Done.
I agree. I agree, Kick.
Or
I
you
agree.
make it half a second longer. And
I agree
then
with
there
2
is a
big
little
points.
skill gap there.
I agree with 2 big points here.
Yeah.
I agree Kick should be off the GCD. And DC Green, I am agreeing with you that having a kick bot in the raid is not fucking fun for that person. Totally agree. Completely 100% agree.
Okay.
My point that's being obfuscated is that why are we acting like that's the only strat?
Well,
It appeared to be, like I said.
Dude, none of this is going to matter in a week when all the weak ores and shit's updated, so you know exactly when it's coming.
Yeah, it'll
Because then you're
turn
just like,
out
oh,
that,
make
like,
sure somebody kick
yeah.
it, you know.
It will be like there's a lot of fights where if you interrupt the boss, they can't, like, it's not even that they can do it within another 4 seconds like a kick. It just blocks that window out and they can't do it for another 17 seconds or something random. We'll find that out next week, like Zim's saying. And then now it'll be, okay, everyone just go ham, and then about 2 seconds before this, 2 of you stop, like get off your GCD, 2 of you try to kick it, and that's it. 17 seconds again, go ham. Like that's going to get found out the next week.
But that's exactly that's literally exactly what I'm saying. And I'm getting like crazy pushback.
Yeah, but they don't. Well, this is again. I'm operating off good faith that we're talking about a pretty good raid team, and I haven't seen this fight or the clip of Simon complaining about it. Was someone kicking and then the boss was casting it again in like 5 seconds?
It's not the boss. It's
Oh,
the
like the
boss
ads, yeah,
spawns mobs, and then the mobs have to be so the boss goes into an air phase, and it seems like all the range focus of the boss plays in the air, and then the melee on the ground are like dealing with these ads. And there are multiple ads, so you need multiple people on different targets that are not doing anything but kicking. And like I said, they were horde and they had a shaman in every group, but I didn't see them utilizing Tremor Totem. So it seemed that the kick was the fear going off was detrimental. It wasn't that like, oh, it goes, because I think it's an AoE fear as well. So it's not like, okay, it goes off and like hopefully we get tremored. It's like, no, this just can't go off. So that was like the strategy they were taking. Now I don't know if that's the ideal strategy, but again, I was just deferring to they're very good players. So I was just deferring to like whatever they choose must be within the realm of like the correct way to go. Maybe we'll find out.
I'll
you know,
jump in.
It's not.
Sorry,
or
Zim.
it'll get nerfed.
Finish it off, Zim.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean, this is all based off of like the best player's point of view, right? It's like, this is what they thought would be the best option to do. Just have a dedicated kicker. That's not the end all be all. I mean, in a week when it's on everybody's week cores and, you know, add-ons and whatever, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. And I think it's kind of silly to be talking about it.
No, and that's fair because Arcos is saying the same thing in chat. I don't know if you guys, Arcos, I don't think you saw the forest for the trees, as they say. Like, I get that this is a frustrating argument where you guys are like, why the fuck are we talking about kicks for 20 minutes? But like, this was literally part of the question that I posed to DC Green, and I invited him. I'm glad he brought this up because I invited him to talk about this because the question was, when Simonize says this raid isn't fun, are we attributing that answer to pure, like, are we just talking about the mechanics? Talk to me about the frustrating mechanics in this raid and why this raid isn't fun. Is it just tactics and mechanics and shit that's been wonky that's pissing him off? Or the other part of my question was, is there a possibility that we could attribute a lack of knowledge to this lack of fun as well? Like the top guild is actually not saying it out loud, but really frustrated quietly that they're the best in the game and they can't fucking beat this raid on night one. And obviously we can't get inside the head of Simonize, but that's the hypothetical that I'm throwing out there. So for us to sit there and talk about the kick for 20 minutes, that was part of the question, baby. And it's a more holistic conversation than you might think.
I don't mean it as
a Simonize. He was mad they couldn't kill it in one night.
Right.
Yeah, he was pretty specific about that, but I don't mean it as a slight to some of them, but maybe there is a bit of like, even these top performing teams, it is a new experience to just get even their asses handed to them, like this brutally.
Yeah.
This hasn't been seen in a pretty long time. And I don't know, maybe, and it might not even be all their raiders. Well, maybe there's just two guys that got clipped on Twitch having a whinge, and the rest of them were there going, fucking wipe 112, this is hectic.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have any perspective. It's just a guess. Like,
I've got insight and perspective on like, I mean, like to go back to the like, why was he saying that it's unfun? So like I thought it was just going to be like a little blip that I could say about the kick, but then we got distracted on that for a while. But the real thing that seemed to be, driving that sentiment was, I don't want to make it like, God. Just don't paint with a broad brush here for a sec. Let me like maybe elaborate a little bit. But like when they were wiping over and over and over on Beatrix. Okay. When they were wiping over and over on Beatrix, he was expressing a lot of, frustration and like, this isn't fun. I think because they were coming to the conclusion that like, this doesn't seem feasible because like the fight is not very complicated. There are like, the generals or whatever like casting these other abilities, but essentially it's just a fight where it's just like Resuvius or not Resuvius, it's just like Gothic and Nax. It's an ad fight, right, where you're like tanking ads and then the boss comes. But if you're doing it 20 times and you've reset the dungeon, you're trying to like get different abilities and you're trying all these different strategies and you just keep coming to this conclusion that like this doesn't look mathematically possible, like we're getting overwhelmed by the ads by the time that the boss is at like 50%, so we still have 50% more to go and we're getting overwhelmed. Like I think that they were there could be let me just finish I'll set the table and then you can talk about it. So that was my interpretation, was like when I was watching them, I'm like, yeah, this looks like it's not balanced. This looks like it's too overtuned, and it seems like unless you're maybe stacking like a bunch of a specific class that makes this real easy, like there's a lot of AoE so maybe if you had like a bunch of boomkins, it'd be super easy. But I don't think that they did. I don't remember what their comp was specifically. But it just looked like that they were wiping over and over and not making progress, and they were changing up stuff all the time and not making progress. So I think that they were just hitting that like, this isn't a challenge. This is impossible. Or maybe it's not impossible, but it's like only like one or two guilds in the world had done it. And like, how did they do it? A lot of the logs that had done it, like did do the reflect thing. So there was just a lot of signs pointing towards like, this isn't actually possible to do unless you cheese it or you have some kind of like weird composition that like maybe does it better than others that people haven't like keyed onto yet.
We'll talk about the cheesing.
So that seemed to be the frustration.
We'll talk about the cheesing for a little bit. I just want to say, Yubi, I'll throw it to you because I feel like you wanted to say something there. But I just want to, before I do that, DC, I just want to clarify. I think you know this, but I just want to make sure you know. I said it earlier. I'm with you on the Beatrix shit. Like this fight, and I think there would have been a lot of shitty players like me watching at home on the streams, going like, fuck me, like even to a fucking numbnuts like me, I can see that this fight is overtuned. Like this looks
Yeah.
beyond intense. And like,
Well, because it looks fun and it looks cool as fuck, right? Like the guys like running through and the horses charging and meteors falling from it. Like it looks sick.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, you can only like get your head bashed in with a pretty bat enough times where you're like, hey,
I
don't
agree.
like getting hit in the back.
I
no
agree,
matter
and
how decorative it is.
and we'll talk later on about the fact that it was the second boss of the raid as well.
That's another issue.
Yeah, and we'll get to all that. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that sort of between the yelling. DC Green and I are making a habit of yelling at each other on stream, but fucking I love him like a brother and he knows it.
That's good. Yeah, it's just verbal sparring.
I love you, mate. I love you. Yubi, you were going to say something.
I wrote down a bunch of points from earlier, by the way, that we haven't addressed yet.
We'll get there. Yubi, what were you going to say?
Okay.
Is it that bad? Like we're here going, some of these fights are like right on the knife edge of what we think is possible. Brackets with 20 players, but you're allowed to just go in with more.
That's one of the points I was bringing up with DC in the Discord that we were sort of running past each other that we'll get to.
I think it was Zoran that was saying like for some of these fights, potentially more might not help. But I mean, it's again, this is the first time where we're progging something and we have the ability to go, fuck it, bring 10 more cunts and bring them in. But then, heaven forbid, your guild won't be on the progress sheet.
Well, now you've done it. Now you've raised the fucking.
Could you imagine being a full clearing 34-man peasant raid? Fucking despicable.
No, but that would suggest classic gamers are all about the results, Yubi. Sorry, about the scores. I
want to be a 1 of 8 struggler ranting on Reddit saying this raid's fucking bullshit. And we refuse to take our 8 benchies. Fuck them. No, that's what I've seen a lot of. And I mean, it's new shit. It's the first weekend. Like we're still Sunday. So it's been out for like 48 hours about now, I think.
Yeah.
And someone has 2 guilds have cleared it. There's some at 6. There's a good chunk at 5 and 4. And then it quickly waters down pretty quickly. And like, I still like to refer to examples of, we had prog this slow with shit that we knew. Like, heroic Lich King comes out, and it's like, you were kind of a big dog to kill that fucker within the first fortnight. It was pretty impressive to do it that quick. And that was shit that we knew exactly, like, right down to what to do with every single phase. And it still took that long to prog. Guys went in here blind and they've cleared the place. And they did it with the minimum amount of players required. Yet alone, like, imagine they actually set the minimum threshold to 30 and made all these good guilds go in with 30. Would we have anywhere near this much outrage? If you actually forced them to go in with 30 players, or heaven forbid 40. Imagine we went full vanilla and you must take 40 players in there with you. Would we have anywhere near this much crying? Maybe we would be saying it was too easy. If everyone that was so good had to take 40 players in there.
It's the elephant in the room, and we do need to talk about this. DC, I should probably kick you off on this one, and then Zim and Sinner will bring you into the mix. This is what you and I were talking about.
Other topics that you brought up earlier that we didn't elaborate on.
Oh, okay. No, let's do it all because there's so much flying around. I just want to say for a really quick tangent, I should say, obviously, yes, you're right, Yubi. The raid has been cleared. Yeah. The raid has been cleared now. I believe it was Arcos's favorite guild, B Tribe. Isn't this our allegedly Saudi-backed guild that cleared it or whatever first?
I believe it was B Tribe.
Yeah. Okay.
And another. Who the hell are these guys? Fass. Whoever the hell Fass is, they've done it too.
So sadly, Countdown Zone Arcos didn't get the world first, but that's all right. We still love him. DC, tell us what we're missing, and I'll figure out if I've got it coming up later or whatever.
Oh, okay. So the original question where we passed it to Yubi and Zim, and then they give some points, and I wrote some stuff down to reply to you. So it was, should progression die, or is this a concept?
What's our interpretation of progression? Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think that anyone I mean, dude, maybe these people are so soft bellied that they do just expect everything to be a loot pinata and therefore be no challenge, and therefore there's really no significance of getting the gear. But that's not how I feel. I have no problem with progression, and I think that progression is it's probably on a big scale, right? So I think that Simonizes raids and standards, that guild that he's in, I think that they probably felt the amount of attempts that they've put in for the caliber of players that they have, that the progression, it became more than progression. I guess it's like
I-
because like clearly
hear
they didn't
you.
have any issue or like like I would say that the way their attempts on the first boss and the amount of attempts and stuff like that
Yeah.
that they did on Balthazar, that's way more indicative of like what I thought I was gonna see.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm with
like
you.
they're
If
gonna
I was
wipe a couple
them,
times.
can I just say, if I
Yeah,
was
like,
them, I
they're gonna-
totally understand, because if you're like literally, let's say you're the best guild in the fucking world in the game, and you've now spent 4 hours on the second boss of the raid, yeah, that does seem like out of tilt with what you would come to expect difficulty-wise. I'm with you there.
Yeah, and then someone mentioned like that they expect that like they're doing it perfectly or something like that, and like I don't think that I would never make the claim that like they were doing all the strategies perfectly, right? Like they're trying to like come up with stuff like on the fly and like this is like never been seen before. But in relation to the Beatrix fight, it's like I said, that fight is like not necessarily like that complex. It's an ad fight. It's like you tank the ads and you kill them with cleave like while you're killing the boss, or sometimes you can't do that because like the boss has like a specific thing that so the strategy didn't seem like it was like so beyond them that like they're just sitting there like, well, we're doing this perfectly and we can't kill it, so it's bullshit. Like I don't think that was the case. It did clearly seem like it was overtuned. And then another comment that was said is like, do I think that they went in with this interpretation that like, oh, we're the best guilds, we're just gonna roll it over in 3 hours? It's like, no, I don't think. I think that every guild hoped that like we're gonna sit here and like wipe a little bit and have to scratch our heads and have to like bring out the whiteboards and like draw an MS Paint and like draw a strat. I think everyone was really excited for that because we literally haven't really had to do that for much of SOD. Maybe you can make an argument that there was some stuff for like Kel'Thuzad hard mode and Saffron hard mode, but like those fights were also pretty like simplistic.
No one that likes Classic has had to do that for 20 fucking years until this raid. Actually sit there and go, so what did the boss do? What was that spell? Like, what did we just die to?
Well,
Because
I'm
you've
a
had
little-
like this is the first PTR-less new fucking content. Like, this is riling me up. It's like people are just like, why isn't this the same as when we walked into Nax?
Well,
You fucking know Nax. You weren't going to walk into Gothic's room and he was a dragon now breathing fire. It was going to be fucking Gothic no matter what, no matter how many extra layers they slapped on his head. Like, and we got to PTR that. Like, I'm
making the point that they didn't think this way, that they didn't feel entitled. Like I'm making the point that I think that they wanted to go in and be properly challenged.
but I'm
but
more
seeing a
surprised.
lot of
And I say they
reading-
were.
Yeah.
but like I'm just seeing a lot of there seems to be a fair bit of negative connotation towards that of just like we've spent too long on this, and it's like, dude, I'm gonna sound like a fucking broken record here. I wiped 104 times to kill heroic Lich King in Wrath, and it's like I had 1080p video footage from other people doing it for the last 20 years to know how to do it. And my guild was good. Like I think we were like top 5 Oz, which isn't that great worldwide, but you know what I mean? We weren't that shit, and it still took us 104 tries to do something that we knew how to do, like right down to the comp and everything. So I don't know. I maybe I'm just out of touch with what we want as the community, but like I would be filled with glee if this took the best guild in the world 20 days to clear.
I think
Like, I
that
wouldn't be
the
that
classic
annoyed with
team
that.
is DC. Let me just say this,
I
and then
don't-
DC. Let me just say this, and then throw it to you real quick. I think the
Sure.
classic team is wrestling with this exact issue because, as DC raised earlier, I think you and DC, and maybe even me, and probably Zim and Sinner are the same player. UB, in that we're all probably, whether or not we've played retail, a little bit retail curious, in that we live in this middle zone of like, we think classic difficulty is a joke. We're really intrigued by retail difficulty. Whether or not we would fully embrace, a fucking mythic plus 13 or whatever is another question. But we're open to that concept. And we lie in the middle between these guys that just want to run Molten Core for the rest of their lives and the guys that want to fucking, your Echoes and Liquids of the world that want to fucking push world first in retail rating. There's this middle ground that has been really hard to define for the classic team, and and again, we'll get to the Agren post later, but it's alluded to in Agren's post, going like the experimentation on trying to find the right difficulty, not for classic gamers, not for retail gamers, not for WoW gamers, but for this group of SOD players, has been hard. Like, where is the threshold? And we're finding out right now that people didn't necessarily want to face roll, but they wanted like maybe a quasi face roll. I don't know. DC, sorry, I'm interrupting. I just wanted to say that.
Oh no, all good. I think that like I think for the most part like we're kind of like on the same page. Well, let me go back to like what Yubi was saying because about like Lich King and about it taking like 20 days or whatever. So I don't think that Blizzard is like interested in releasing raids that can't be cleared in the first week. So I don't really think that that's like a reality that we live in anymore.
You
like
mean classic Blizzard, because retail do take like more than a week.
Does it? I thought the Race of World First is always like.
Well, there's also there are. I mean, what do we have any classic teams that literally raid for like 104 of 120 hours and spend tens of millions of gold to keep pushing 18 hours a day every day? There's like a retail race taking 6 days is like the equivalent of a classic race taking a fucking month.
John
with the
will know.
applied to it.
John will know. He said it's nine-ish days or something.
Yeah, 9-ish days, and that is like an absurd amount of teamwork in a retail setting compared to classic.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to comment on this because like we don't know what Blizzard's like target was. We don't know what they were actually trying to hit with this. But I get the impression that they're not interested in releasing raids that like can't be cleared in the first week, which is evident by the fact that this raid has already been cleared. And in regards to your Lich King example, like that's the last boss of like the pinnacle raid of the expansion. So like if guilds were able to get to the last boss of Scarlet Enclave and then they had to do 100 pulls to kill it, I'd say that like that's acceptable and like we're in the same realm. But like we're talking about like the first and second bosses that like really, we're giving people the issue. And again, I don't think that like. I think what's getting like obfuscated in these discussions is that like people don't want something that they want to struggle, but the struggle needs to have it needs to be able to be overcome. And the state that Beatrice was in just looked like it hadn't been properly balanced or tuned, and I just can't like it really irks me that like Blizzard doesn't like test anything, probably because they don't want to spend the money on like a QA team. But I'm just like,
I have to interrupt there and say they have a QA team. Now I'm with you, DC, that the QA work has been questionable through the last year with some of these products, like Catabug, SOD stuff. I agree with you there, but they do have a QA team. There are good people on the QA team, but that does not mean that the QA work is immune from criticism. So I just wanted to say that.
Sure. Yeah, because I always wonder, like, how much more did it cost them monetarily for someone like Simon Eyes, who was pinned at the top of Wowhead? He had 5,000 viewers. He's saying that the raid's unfun, that it's elitist. He makes a YouTube video that on the thumbnail it says, "This raid isn't for you," and then the title of the YouTube video is "Don't raid Scarlet Enclave till it's nerfed." It's like, how much damage does that do compared to like if you had just got like, I imagine that if the SOD devs had just pinged Arcos and been like, hey, like we'll let you guys like a week before the raid, like do it with like as long as they're okay with the spoilers,
stop.
Right?
He just
like,
blew in his pants. That thought.
I mean, like, I think that they'd learn a lot from letting players of that kind of caliber just like run the raid for like 8 hours. You'd learn a lot. You'd see them white up on Beatrix for 6 hours and be like, maybe these numbers are like a little high. And I made some comments on like there's been so many Reddit posts and stuff like that, so I've been kind of trying to like get an idea behind the people that say like it's better for them to release it overtuned and nerf it over time as opposed to just like releasing it well balanced. And I just like, I don't know. People are trying to make the they're like, well, you don't want to release it undertuned because then people like roll over it. And I'm just like, this idea that they can't like internally balance it, it just seems like really weird to me. Someone referred to like the raid being balanced as like a stretch goal. And I was like, that's insane because there will be a point where they're going to stop nerfing it and stop buffing it, right? Which means that there is a balance that they'll have hit and that they just needed enough data to like find out what that balance is. So it just irks me that like they can't seem to get that internally, and then the community gets to run away with this fucking narrative that like everyone wants face roll content, and it just like marginalizes the classic player base as being these fucking retards that just want to go in there and pretzels and beer and all this stuff. And I just hate this narrative. And it's like, you guys had the chance to like not let that get run away with, but for whatever reason the raid just like
I'm with you.
Very overtuned.
I'm with you. I agree. I'll add this flavor to that, DC, whether or not you agree with this. Those players still exist. They're just mostly playing Anniversary. Again, I think the SOD player base is a slightly different one, which is why I understand that you get upset, because you are very much your stereotypical SOD player. It's a different breed, different likes, and they're still trying to figure out what that is.
But like I've kind of gotten lost in the fog here of which way we're even trying to discuss this. But like,
Oh man, fucking I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Galley Boy, as far as I remember, isn't exactly in like a super sweat tryhard guild, and he's a pretty chill dude. And he said they went in with 35, did 5 of 8 in their first night, and
Yep.
I imagine that's
Yep.
not a 9-hour raid night. And he said, "Raid fun, thumbs up, cool. See you next week."
Yep.
And like, sounds like some codgers just went in there and did 5 of 8 because they were willing to take in more than 20.
And
so
let's
seems
talk about
to be
it.
a wide appeal. Imagine if they had to take in 20, they'd probably be 0 of 8.
Let's talk
and
about
go,
that
"This
right
raid
now.
shit."
UB, you raised it earlier. I wanted to let DC Green clear up some of the points that he's written down. DC, you might have more, but we need to talk about this point now.
No, that was everything.
Yeah, cool. Now we've got to talk about this. UB's all over it, and it's people have probably been frustrated that we've taken this long to really dive in on it, but it must be spoken about at some form of length. UB's spot on. It's the elephant in the room. Flex rates are still available, right? This is built for 20. And DC, I'll throw you a bone. I think I didn't give you enough credit in our conversation yesterday. You were right. I was wrong. I wasn't lending enough weight to your point that yes, the raid is designed for 20, and that must be at the forefront of the mind. But I think equally, to be slightly fair, I'm not asking for a concession out of you, but to be fair, it must also be kept in mind that obviously the option of taking more is right there as well for the taking, if your guild wants that. We have to talk about, within this large conversation about raid difficulty and whether or not Scarlet Enclave has dropped the ball or not with this player base, we've got to discuss the option to take more. And UB gave the great example just there. Other people are already saying, I've seen it around the traps. Went in with 32, went in with 34, got 3, got 4, got 5, and people are happy with that. We've really needled in on the competitive top guilds in the world. What does this mean for the dad guilds when they see those guys going in with 20 versus having the option to maybe go a bit easier and go in with 35?
Not to be dramatic, I genuinely think it's kind of like the biggest momentum shift in all of Classic that we've had so far. In what open avenues for potential for the game going forward. Because now this is really, I referenced retail where you have, I mean LFRs whatever, but you got normal, heroic, and mythic, and it's kind of like you can do the raid on heroic, and then your guild is progging mythic, and you're 2 of 8 in mythic, but you're full heroic, and every week you do full heroic pretty quick, you get a bit of gear, and then you prog mythic. In Classic, this is how I'm seeing it going forward. You can be a 28-man team doing the raid, and you're working towards eventually getting to do it as 20 if that's what you want to chase. But if you're a guild of 28, you might never give a fuck about that. But alternatively, let's say you're quite a big guild with multiple raid teams, and you've got 3 teams of 27 or some shit. You could all be working towards building like 4 teams of 19 to maybe get more efficient or whatever the math would be. That's just off the top of my head. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the new goalpost, but it gives us that flexibility where now the codgers can go in with 36 and they can see the whole place. And then if they so wish to do so, they can work their way down to 20 so that then they can pass or whatever. But a lot of the guys that are operating on their 28-man super flexi roster probably will never give a fuck. And that's good, because they never gave a fuck to be on the horse race that is Warcraft logs anyway. So I can't really see a negative, but it is a huge positive for how Tim and the boys can give us content. Because before, when we're locked to one particular size, they have to make the goals big enough that everyone at some point can run through them. Whereas now one team can just play with more players. and then they can end up at the same end goal. So I don't know. To me, I genuinely think it's kind of like the biggest deal. Like, it's the biggest elephant in the room that we've had in a long time.
Yeah. Let me just add this, DC. Let me throw. I do want you to go next. I just want to throw it in the framework of a question here. Just because I think we need to raise this, and Yubi didn't weave this in, but I'll get you to weave it in. Go raises a really interesting point, and he's just reminded me of this, even though it wasn't quite part of his answer, where he said he went in with 40 and they couldn't kill the first boss. Now, I presume he's talking about his guild, but one of the big bugaboo topics for Season of Discovery DC has been pugability. This is a big thing with Sunken Temple that was really the driving factor behind the bitching, behind the difficulty, was, hey man, I can't go in with a pug and blast this content. Now, I get level up raids, I get it, whatever. Slightly different beast that we're dealing with here at, arguably the quote-unquote end of the game with Scarlet Enclave. But my question, DC Green, is to build on Yubi's answer, how do you feel about a pug group of 40 in this raid? Because my opinion right now, as it stands, even with the minimal nerfs that we got to Beatrix, I'm of the opinion that a pug 40-man raid would fucking struggle to kill one or two bosses here. I'm okay with that, but I'm a weirdo. What do you think, DC Green?
So just to comment on Flex in general, I think it's great. I don't have any issue with the fact that they've made this being you should be able to take 41 people in for all I fucking care,
Yeah.
I think that that's good that they made it accessible in that way to a lot of other guilds. And there are a lot of guilds that have extra players that's going to really benefit them having those extra players, because they're probably going to be actually needed this week rather than getting rotated in or taking someone else's spot. And in fact, I believe my guild is combining both of our raid teams to do it tomorrow. I think we plan on taking in about 30 people because we don't really care about prog. We just care about getting the loot. So I think it's great. And if a pug of 40 goes in there and struggles, I think that's probably the thing is I think there's diminishing returns with the amount of people that you take. So I think that if a 40 person went in there and they couldn't do it, I don't think that speaks to necessarily it being imbalanced. I think that comes more with the variance of you have way more players that maybe they hit a mechanic and it gets a bunch of other people killed, or they drag a mechanic to other people that were avoiding it. You know what I mean? Once you get a lot of people in there, the real estate where people can stand and stuff like that becomes very scarce. And so multiple people can kind of screw you over in that regard. So that would be my suspicion if people went in with 40 and they weren't able to kill it. It's just that but I think that's great that they can, if they want to try and overwhelm it. I think that's totally viable, because as Yubi said, it really only matters to the people that care about getting on Warcraft logs and progging and stuff like that to do it for 20. Now I will say that if it's intended for 20 people but it's balanced for 30, that's not very good design, right? It should be able to be done. It should be challenging for 20 people, as it was cited by Blizzard to be.
Right.
So
right.
They'll learn a bit from building this raid. Tim and them will learn these things. You haven't had a flexi raid that's supposed to be challenging for the 20 and all this stuff. Like you're saying, that was my suspicion. I think Zoran brought it up. Is that let's just say, if the boss is going to cast a 10-yard AoE on half the raid and you've got 40 in there and the room's a fucking tiny square, then it's kind of fucking you. They'll just learn, and they'll make sure that maybe the radiuses will be smaller, or they'll might even try and avoid those mechanics. But
or target caps.
Yeah, so like a target cap. If it's only going to affect, it's just going to affect 10 all the time. And then if you take in 40, then the other 30 can just scram to a safe space. I think they'll just learn from that pretty quickly, and if we get anything new going forward, that'll be how they go about it.
Let me get Zim and Sinner in the mix here, and I'll come back to you guys, UB and DC Green, because I want to get everyone's answer on this. It's a very easy question. Yeah, you've got to go.
I'm just going to go. I'll go get the missus a coffee then. I'll
take
a break and I'll
all good.
Back.
Yell out when you're back. Too easy. Zim, let me throw it to you, mate. And like I said, we'll get everyone's answer on this, because this has been, like I said, the divisive point of Season of Discovery is really how you feel about puggable content. Should all content in the game be puggable? Blah, blah, blah. Now, I think a keynote, again, Scarlet Enclave is a little bit of a different beast, and we have to keep that in mind. A keynote with Scarlet Enclave is Blizzard did get on the front foot with this one and say, before it came out, hey guys, you know, we're kind of emphasizing that this is going to be challenging content. And I think if you speak the language or you can decipher the code there, to me, that instantly read like no pugs allowed. You know what I mean? Like if you're pugging this content, we're telling you it's going to be challenging, you're probably going to have a bad time. And that's very much so been the case so far. So the question, Zim, is, should the Scarlet Enclave raid be puggable, and to what extent? Like X amount of bosses or what?
Yeah, so I think that every raid should be puggable to an extent. I do think that maybe like the mini bosses is probably going to cause. I think even most of the mini bosses in there are just, you know, tank and spank, right? Not a big deal. But I feel like some pugs may struggle on just even those, and that's going to be an indicator of like, ooh, we may not get that far, you know, something like that. But just knowing like the second boss, and I don't see a pug getting through that at all, like pretty much ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very seldom see like full pugs go into, you know, hard mode 4 Nax. You know, I haven't really seen a whole lot of that, but that's the great thing about Nax is that you can turn it down to hard mode 3, hard mode 2, whatever. You can do like half of it on 4, half of it on 3, whatever you want to do. And I think that's very pug friendly, which I think is great for the game and the community. But for Scarlet Enclave, they like you said, they came out and said, hey, this is going to be a challenge. You know, you need to basically step up essentially, which I took it as like a, you know, challenge accepted, you know. But I'd be very surprised if we saw pugs popping up for this that were actually doing well. Like, and by well, I mean like clearing half the raid within a month.
Okay. Sinner, how about you? Same question. Should the Scarlet Enclave be puggable, and if so, to what extent?
Are we talking about what I like or what I feel is best for the health of the game?
What do you think is best for an MMO? Like, you know, this is the final. Let's say it's the final raid. This is your quote unquote Nax. Last bit of content, supposed to be, you know, the fucking pinnacle of content, something to strive towards. If you were building an MMO, if you were the head of the classic team, Sinner, what would you want to deem this content to be difficulty-wise? Do you want people getting involved via pugs? Or do you sort of say, yeah, pugs can come in, and we'll stop you at a certain point? How would you do it?
If we're talking about having a successful game, as much as people won't like it, making it easy is the right choice. We've seen it time and time again with every single hard raid. Play-based just tanks. It's not what I would like. It's not what I feel is the most fun for me. But it makes sense for people to kill all except maybe the last boss. Like strictly talking the health of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if people can't keep playing, if they can't keep moving forward to at least to some point, they quit.
Yes,
that's a reality.
Right. That's true. That is very true. DC, we'll circle back to you, mate. Same question. I'll give you my thoughts at the end. Go for it.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Like, I don't think that challenging and puggable can be reconciled. Like, I don't think those are two things that you can have simultaneously. I think that, I mean, and this requires you to be able to balance things really well. But like, you know, maybe there's something to be said that like you could have the 3 first bosses or something like that, like be manageable by a pickup group. But like, I feel like something that it's implied when we talk about pugs, but like we never really say it out loud. But like a pickup group is you with 19 other random people, and you're betting on getting yourself saved to this raid with these people. And that creates a very like fight or flight mentality with a lot of pickup groups where people are very flighty. Like as soon as they start seeing like shit hit the fan, they're going to get the fuck out of there because they're self-preserving and trying to save their lockout, right? So if you have this content that's like challenging and you're basically going into a raid with you and 19 other roaches, like you're probably not going to have a great time. And I don't know it, like, I think that, you know, these are MMOs and they're supposed to reward socializing with other players, other gamers, people that are the same ilk of you. Don't treat them like they're just these fucking NPCs that like come into your raid that you can piggyback on and like get epics. Like, these are other people that you can socialize with and you can talk with and that you can make bonds with. And then you feel better about going into the raid with like that specific guy because you know, like, hey man, this guy's a G, like he knows what he's doing and he's pretty good. But if you're just going to go in with like these random people, like you're essentially just gambling. And I don't think that you should be rewarded for gambling. You should probably get the same outcomes as anything, less than 50%. And if that's the case, that we have to like reward the people that are engaging in like these social aspects of the game and like adhering to like the social contract and stuff like that, that we all have to like agree to before we sign. Like, I think that those people should get rewarded because there's very few things in the game that do reward that because it's been kind of dumbed down over time so that it is accessible to everyone.
So
which is fine. And again, like now that we're at the very end of SOD, we're at the pinnacle raid, like this is going to be the last raid, it's going to be the hardest one. I don't think that there's an issue with it being a little bit inaccessible for a while because as Blizzard said, they have like some levers and stuff they can pull that'll make it easier over time. I think that it's okay that, you know, some people have to sit on the sidelines for a while other people that engage in the game in a more involved way, they get a little bit of time to shine and get rewarded. I think that that's totally fine. But that's Blizzard's discretion, and I think it's a really hard line to toe. And I think it's very difficult to like make something challenging but also puggable. So I wouldn't like count on it. Like those two things being simultaneously possible.
I mostly agree. I guess I'd seek clarification from you on sort of where your line in the sand is. Like, and again, I'll weave a bit of a Gren's Blue Sky post into this part of the chat where he brought up, I think someone alluded to this earlier, the concept of like the 2-4-6 thing where like, maybe your pugs are only killing 2 out of 8 bosses and that's totally okay and they go home happy because they got something out of it and they got to see a little bit of the new raid and they got something out of it. Maybe your lesser skilled guilds are getting 4 out of 8 and they're happy. Maybe your intermediate guilds are getting 6 out of 8 and your best guilds are getting 8 out of 8 and everyone's supposed to be getting something and going away happy, but everyone's seeing the content to a certain extent as opposed maybe to your pug going 0 out of 8 and seeing fuck all. Where do you like again, just on the pug, do you agree with the Gren that maybe it's good people getting in there going like it's okay to be 2 out of 8 as opposed to like your 0 out of 8? I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I think that like maybe you could strike a balance with making like the first 3 bosses like maybe a little bit more difficult than like your average classic boss, but it should be surmountable by a group that's willing to spend like at least an hour on it or something like that. Like I would say like an average pickup group, like hopefully they've got like 3 to 4 hours to kill, right? So if they have to spend like an hour on every boss and then an hour on the trash in between them, right? That's your 4 hours. And like if they're able to surmount that, then that would be acceptable. And then the rest of the stuff is like much more challenging for like organized players. But to speak on the gear thing that like Agron said, like just remember that like when you're in a pug, like the people that get gear in your pug, like you're probably not going to see them.
You're never going to see them again.
Probably going to be in a different pug.
100%.
So that philosophy is going to like fall pretty flat on its face for people that think like, oh, I'm just going to chip my way through to the 8th boss or whatever. It's like you probably won't. Yeah. And this is what really benefits people from like having like, I don't know, just join a guild and like make friends and like have people that are willing to, like they're happy to carry you and happy to like have you in the raid and stuff like that. That's, that's like very beneficial. So
mates,
but
well, let me just weave in like, so God, what was I going to say? That's right. The gearing. I'm glad you brought the gear up. So just to dive in on this point, and John, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but you'll have to tell me if this wasn't you. I think it was John or someone else in the Discord, and I've seen this point brought up already in the last 24 hours on the subreddit a little bit. I need someone to explain to me why. Maybe it was you, DC. Fuck, I can't remember. I need someone to explain to me why people get up in a huff about the just gear up retort. So obviously people are saying, hey man, this raid is fucking hard, what's going on? And a very common reply is, well, that's okay. your guild will receive gear from the 1 or 2 bosses that you can do. So do 1 or 2 weeks of the 1 or 2 bosses you can do. And then that obviously will lift the overall gear of the raid that you can then eventually get down the 3rd boss, get more gear, eventually get down the 4th boss. That's progression, blah, blah, blah. Some people have really been clapping back going, fuck that for a response. I hate it when people say just gear up. It's ridiculous. I don't really understand why people are upset by that reply. Someone will have to explain it to me. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was me calling the ret guy names for not reading what I was saying.
Oh, right.
The issue isn't that gearing up is that is a good argument, but when it ends up being on the first boss only, because we assume that the Beatrice is the wall right now, right?
Right.
That's the premise.
Right.
If we go through like the first boss of every raid, what pieces do they usually have? Not so impactful pieces, right? In Nax, assuming it was linear, it's not, but bear with me. We would get bracers. My entire raid would get bracers. Oh man, wow, bro! Like that's a huge DPS upgrade, man. Like that's gonna make the world of a difference. Everyone got bracers? No way! Like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing that I was arguing yesterday is, if we're going to have a wall, I'm not saying Beatrice is a wall, but if we're going to have a wall, having it later in the raid, so people can get a variety of pieces,
Yes.
people can get set bonuses, people can get all of these things. At that point, just gear up, bro, is a perfectly fine thing to say. But when it's just one boss, it's a stupid argument.
Sorry, thank you for that clarification. That makes a lot more fucking sense, and I completely agree with you, Sinner. I'm glad you added, because just gear up, bro, is my argument within the context of what you said. Because like, I haven't really gone into this, guys, but like, you guys know that I am not, even though I don't rate, in my opinion, truly, honestly, doesn't fucking count, but I'm just going to say something anyway. I am of the opinion that, having a really, really difficult last 3 bosses of a raid is fine to me. I want a wall that separates the men from the boys. I'm sorry, I know a lot of classic gamers don't like to hear that, and DC Green, that might irk you, but like I'm saying, there are classic gamers out there who, like John said earlier, really do feel like they have a birthright to kill every boss in the game at all times. I do enjoy, especially in a raid like the Scarlet Enclave, which is your fucking ultimate be-all, end-all raid. As far as we know, the end of the game. It's the Nax of this version of the game. Fucking just make the end of it quite hard so that I don't have to stand in fucking Stormwind or Orgrimmar and see every man and his dog in the same gear from the last boss. I like a version of the game that has like, hey, it's not that there's no achievements in this game, but you can see my gear. I am one of very few people standing in town that everybody who knows that I have killed the last boss of the game, and that's a bit of a difficult thing to do. Thank you very much. I'm down with that. I'm super down with that. And it's easy for me to say because I don't raid. I don't care that I looked at Scarlet Enclave and I went, hoo, that's a bit spicy for me. I won't be going to that one. And I'm okay with that. But again, I don't raid, so what does it matter? But like, particularly towards Sinner's point, I am so down with having the first 3 or 4 bosses be doable for a lightly organized guild. Let's call it a quote unquote shittier guild, if that's not going to upset anyone. Yeah, average guild gets the first 4 bosses down because they're in comms together, they're moderately organized, they communication is half the battle, quite frankly. If you're just in voice together with one person who can moderate a voice channel, you've won half the battle with the raid. We all know that. So they get 3 or 4 bosses down. Great. Happy with that. Then the difficulty ramps up, like Agrend alluded to in his Blue Sky post. Have it get to the point where it's like, ooh, we've hit a wall. We're going to be stuck at this wall for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Fine. We'll gear up. use all that gear to overcome the hill that we can't climb right now. Great, that's how it should be, in my opinion. The better guilds get 6 out of 8. Fuck, this second last and last boss are kick. We can't get past the second last boss. This is fucked. You know, but we're the fucking third best guild in the world. Boys, do the raid for 2 or 3 weeks, get fucking 6 bosses worth of gear for 3 weeks, and then you'll blast the 7th boss. That's what I like. Personally, that's just me. So just gear up, bro, works for me as an argument in that context. But I agree with you, Sinner. I wasn't doubting you, but I just, like I said, I just wanted fucking a bit of an explanation on it. Why just gear up, bro, isn't working here. And you're right. When it's as difficult as it is at the outset, one boss doth butter no parsnips. So I understand. DC, sorry, it sounds... Yubi, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Jump
walking.
in. What did I miss? Go for it.
No, I'm not saying... I agree. The second boss shouldn't be a huge wall. And historically, that's happened a few times, and it always upsets everybody. When it's a raid that's linear, front door to back door, there's lots of raids where there's a prick in some quarter, but guess what? You don't have to do that quarter. Imagine how less nostalgic anyone would be for Nax Ramus if you had to do patchwork as the first boss. Like, so many less guilds would have ever had a good time if you had to kill Patchy first. So, like, there's like architectural ways to get around it. But I mean, not everyone wants every raid to be quarter. But like, even in Ulduar, you know, you didn't have to you could not do Freya, you could go do something else, etc. So like, there is that alternative in their raid design. But sometimes raids do need to be front door to back door for the sake of how it makes sense. But I just wanted to point out it's not always the case. But you know, I think I referenced Brutalis. I think that's the big fucking Gate Lord prick in Sunwell. Like, he was a big wall for a lot of people, and that pissed a lot of people off. But I guess I'm just sadistic because I'm like, nah, it's kind of cool. Like, if it only happens every so often, it's kind of cool when the second boss says, "Get the fuck out of here, bro."
The Gate Lord, that's a new one for me. All right, I like.
Okay, the Demon Gate fellas.
No, I'm with you. The Gate Lord. Okay, I'm with you. DC, you were going to say something? Maybe not.
What? I don't remember.
I don't know. After my fucking monologue, my boring monologue. Are you with me?
I thought what you were saying. Well, actually, I wanted to comment on because you mentioned that like you called it like a loosely organized guild, or you know, so like a shitty guild, but like at least they're in comms or whatever. Yeah. And it's really hard to tell like. And I mentioned this before, like what Blizzard's target was with this raid, because like when I was watching Simonize and them like wipe on Beatrix, I was like, okay, this is either overtuned or it's very, very tightly tuned for people that can parse 100s, which is also like a pretty hardcore stance for them to have taken. I don't hate that because I'm a person that can do that. So I'm like, this will be like appropriately challenging content for me, which is something I'm craving. But that seems like really, really crazy. And as they've nerfed it over time, it would be really interesting to hear Blizzard say, like, this is content that's designed for people that can parse between 50 and 75. And
they're never going to do that. You know that.
Or whatever. Yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, to be able to pilot your class to do, like, 70% of its, like, potential DPS is not easy. Like, I don't know if people know this, but parsing is not based on... It's based on your actions per minute. So, like, for example, like, I play a rogue, and our GCD is 1 second. So that means that I have to have 60 APM in a raid. And that's very hard to do. I'd say that most of the time I probably come up to, like, 57, 58, 59, 60. You know, it's like I don't always do it. But... So, you know, when we're looking at like your average player who probably has like a 1.5 second GCD, you know, like how many spells and stuff like that are they getting off in a thing? And it would be really interesting to hear Blizzard say definitively, like, okay, we tuned this for people that do like 20 to 30 APM, you know? But so like when I was seeing them like wipe all the time, I'm like, dude, this is made for like the absolute like top players. It's kind of insane. Now, you know, we have seen them nerf it a lot, so it doesn't seem that that's intended. But what is the actual ceiling? Is it 90 parses? Is it 80? Is it 70? Like, what is it? What do they expect the average player to be piloting their class at, like, you know, the efficiency that is needed, and we don't really know that, so it is kind of hard to comment. But if the first couple bosses were tuned so that people that like, at least like you said, are in comms, and that's like half the battle is like everybody knowing, like being on the same page and being able to communicate things like quickly and efficiently, I think that people should be rewarded for that. So if the first 1 to 4 bosses, like if the first half of the raid was like accessible to those people, but then like maybe the next 4 did kind of take that upper echelon of APM to see yourselves through on, I wouldn't really have a problem with that. I more take issue with the fact that like any one guy and 19 other chuckle fucks can just go in there and like bowl it over. I think that's like bad for the game. Well, maybe not bad for the game, because Senna was saying the game is always the best when like people can clear the content, but like I don't think that like we should reward people that like don't engage in the like social metrics of the game like as much.
Somewhere
they should have to like earn it a little bit more, because they're choosing to not engage with a part of the game that makes things easier. So the way that they do engage with the game should be a little bit harder.
Somewhere in chilly Canberra, Tito is shedding a tear of joy hearing you say all that. Yubi, you were going to say something?
Just like, this isn't to say that DC Green isn't playing spectacularly and such, but like, it's a bit audacious to assume that all of you are essentially performing perfectly right now. Like, you are performing the best of everybody, but I mean, it took us a month to find out that FAPs are really useful for Chorus. So like, who knows? I will be shocked if we have a pod in 2 weeks and you tell me in 2 weeks, nah, I'm doing everything exactly like I was 2 weeks ago. Like, I already know the perfect time to use Blade Flurry. Do ya? Are you sure?
I'm
not making that case.
No, but you're saying though that the fights are tuned, that these guys can't beat it, and they're 100 passes. They're not. For all we know, no, but in a month from now, whatever the fuck they're doing right now might be a 60 pass once things get ironed out more and strategies get improved upon. They're the best players at the moment. But like, literally, it happens all the time. Even, again, I refer to it, known content.
Yeah.
And it's not even the gear.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even 1 week's upgrades, but suddenly next week you'll all do 20% more DPS. Are you telling me it's because 2 guys got 1 item last week? No. It's because you all know what the fuck you're doing now. So like, is it really out of reach at the moment, or are we still just bad?
You've raised it earlier, Yubi, but that's the exact point that, if anything, we haven't touched on enough, that I reckon fucking Tim he's back in the crowd now. He's probably sitting at home fucking cheering for you, and again, shedding tears of joy as he hears you say that. Because I think the Classic team probably very much so, from a design perspective, thinks the same way, and is probably tearing their hair out. Tim's torn all of his out over this raid, going, fucking just learn it. Like, you don't know the raid yet, and you're all sitting here bitching and talking about these fucking encounters that you know dick all about. Fucking learn it, then get back to me in a month when you fucking know a thing or two, and then see how you feel. I'm sure is a big part of the Classic team's fucking feelings right now. But coming in off the fucking top rope, oh my god, is that KPT's music? Mate, how are you?
Yeah, no, yourself.
Oh my god, I've got to turn you down. I've got you at 150% from last time you were on the show. Mate, I'm good. Mate, you've been listening to the whole stream on Twitch. You've been wrestling with children, trying to put them to bed and everything. Now you're available. You've got 1,000,000 points that you want to scream at people that you've listened to over the last 2 hours on the show. Let's get your notepad out and compare its size with DC Green's.
Yeah, so I know you guys were talking about like Simonizes feedback earlier. And from what I saw, again, I just watched Jordy, who's in Simon's guild, and he was doing his like race to world first, whatever, coverage of the race. And like at the very end, when I forget Simon's guild name, but when they called it
Standards.
Standards, when they called it, like Jordy's like, yep, nope, Simon's essentially like losing his mind in Discord. And apparently the main reason behind him like being like, this is not fun, this is stupid, was there were guilds that cheesed the second boss. Like they used a reflector, killed the second boss.
I should have mentioned it. I'm so bad for not really talking about it yet. Let's just quickly get into it, KPT. Obviously the cheesing.
Yeah, so essentially it's just like an engineering trinket where you can reflect damage back at the boss. Guilds used it, killed that boss, and moved on past the quote-unquote proverbial wall for the second boss.
Arcos was spewing about that because they did it the right way.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like it's still doable, just like B Tribe. Like B Tribe did it the right way. Arcos's guild did it the right way. So I mean, it's still killable, but it's really the delineation point between like what raiders are in classic comparative to like what raiders are in retail is like figuring out fights. Like even Max, the GM of Liquid, has came out and openly said like there is a very very like razor thin margin between like the skill of their players and the skill in the world fifth best guild for retail. What really separates those guilds is being able to go into fights and figure them out, which the classic community with Scarlet Enclave coming out has pretty much outright came out and said like, we don't want to do this. We just want to know when and when to push our buttons for fights. We don't want to have to figure out how to push them. Or
do you get that impression from standards though, that like they just want to be able to push their buttons and not have to figure it out? Because I didn't get that impression.
I mean, if the raid's being cleared by other guilds in uncheesed fashions, and they're just saying,
but if like
100
guilds are doing it and like 2 of them can do it and 1 of them is using like a cheese, like doesn't that kind of say like, maybe this isn't like balanced?
Well, even for the second boss, like take her out. Like they nerfed her literally the second day the raid was out.
Yeah, I thought
Which
we already
proves that she was
established.
unbalanced, right?
I thought we already established that when raids were released that they're unbalanced naturally. They aim for balance, but they're going to be a little overtuned.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like even like to say, like to be able to try, like it's 2 different mindsets to be able to want to raid, like to be able to figure out a raid and then to be able to kill a boss most efficiently. Those are 2 completely different players.
It's similar. This might be a shitty, again, DC Green, I hope you've got your analogy police uniform on. It's a similar thing, KPT, wouldn't you say, between those who want to lead and want to follow. Very few people want to be team leaders because that requires getting off your ass and doing something and leading, as opposed to most people within a work environment being more than happy to follow.
Absolutely. And like even in like I hate that I keep bringing up retail, but this was one of the first times the last boss in the retail raid, there wasn't PTR on it, there was no dungeon journal on it. And when Liquid got there first, they had to figure out the fight. Given the fight was obtusely undertuned, and it only took them like 120 attempts to kill it, the guilds that followed, and Echo and Method, I believe, killed it in somewhere like in half the attempts. And even Max said, outright came out and said, the GM of Liquid, like, we had the most fun doing this boss, but we're going to be the only guild that actually got to do this and do prog on this boss and figure out the mechanics, where that's what everyone 72 hours ago when they hopped into Scarlet Enclave was doing. Like, it wasn't PTR'd. No one knew anything. I mean, the only really criticism I have is it would have been nice to know to kill what generals in what order. And of course, the empowered generals give the second boss her mechanics. But to just expect players to know that, I mean, is a little bit obtuse, because with how tightly tuned that boss is, there are going to be specific mechanics that you want to negate from that fight that enable more uptime on the boss. It's like that was a loss in that regard. But it just, to me, really feels like classic players don't want to figure fights out. They just want to have the fight laid out for them and do it.
Well, KBT, if I can grab you, let's put you. DC, do you have something on that before we move on?
I have so much issue with like broad statements. So like,
do it. No. You got you got into it with me,
so
you got to get into it with him. You've got to.
So like, I think that like I don't know. At least for me, the only stream that I watched was Simonize's stream. I only watched like top guilds do this. I didn't watch like the average like person go in there and try it. So I just don't get the impression that these top guilds were fuming because they like couldn't roll it over. And again, Beatrice is not like a very complex fight. It's an ad fight with a boss, and there's like stuff that falls from the sky. Like, these people were clearly like moving out of like the things that they needed to move out of. They were dodging the horses, they were dodging the footmen. Like, it's not like they were succumbing to mechanics. They were like getting to a point where they're doing damage on the boss and they're trying to cleave the ads down and tank them at the same time, and the numbers were just not tuned, and so they were getting like overwhelmed. And then another issue with this that like I haven't gotten to bring up yet, but like when you release something that's overtuned like that, it's really unfair to the people that go in disperse because they have no idea that they're just about to waste a bunch of time on Blizzard's behalf, so then Blizzard can make it better for everybody else.
But
And you don't know that until you spent the 5 hours and wasted
That's
all
a
your time
lifestyle.
and
That's a
energy.
lifestyle choice, though.
it's
They know what they're signing up
progression
for.
if it's actually killable. It's progression if it's actually killable. If it's not actually killable, besides
Raid.
one guild that did it the normal way and one other guild that did it with cheese, then that's like you're not like progging. You're beta testing.
Let me
And
jump
the,
in.
The nerfs to Beatrice. Hold on, the nerfs
Yeah.
to Beatrice were also like substantial. Like her health only got nerfed by 5, but the things that they did to all the other mechanics of the fight were like pretty substantial, which, you know, to me is like, okay, this was way out of whack. Like it was really
There's
overtuned.
only-
And that's just like really unfair to those people that go in there and they waste their viewers' time because they're just sitting there like wiping on the same thing. They're wasting their own time and
somebody
energy.
think
They're
of the
getting
poor
frustrated. They
viewers?
say bad
Won't
things about the
somebody
game.
think of the viewers?
This is a broad statement.
I think like you're saying something that's technically true, but you're talking about 35 guilds in the world. It's nowhere near as bad as what they did to Sunken Temple, where you had hundreds of guilds go in day one, and then they literally neutered the living fuck out of it, where like thousands of guilds could complete it 8 hours
Yeah, that
later.
pissed me off too.
Yeah,
I don't excuse that.
that
either.
annoyed me. Yeah, but they haven't done that with this. 35 fucking guilds have killed her even after the nerf. Like, it's not like they've just opened the floodgates and you wasted 10 hours. No one can still fucking kill her, except like well-organized teams. So like, I don't think it's been that drastic. You said something. It is true that it's all, but it's like, it's unfair that someone had to spend $500 million developing this technology and then everyone else copies it immediately afterwards. But like, that's the consequence of being the tip of the spear. Go be the fucking handle if you don't want to do all the hard work up front. Like,
let
that's
me
just,
let me jump in.
how it is.
Let me jump in. John, you've joined us. I love when John joins in because I leave the option to speak open to him the whole chat, and then when you know when he accepts it, he's jumping in off the top rope and he's ready to fucking come take prisoners. John, you've obviously
yeah.
been
Give me the
triggered.
chair.
You've been triggered. You've got your steel chair.
I actually want to, like, you know, I understand where DC is coming from, where he's feeling attacked, but I think that one of the main differences, like when you ask like somebody who predominantly plays retail and somebody who predominantly plays classic, how do you want the game to respect your time or value your time? People who generally play classic, like, well, I want to log in, I want to do stuff, whatever it is, and I want to make my character more powerful. Whereas people that are a lot of, you know, that are like climbing in retail, they want what they really want is they want the ladder. They don't want to go grab the ladder. They just want to be able to climb the ladder. So I kind of get where, you know, DC Green is coming from, feeling like he's a little attacked. Because
I don't really feel attacked. There's just been like a lot of statements that keep getting made that I like when you try and extrapolate them onto like these top guilds, like I don't think that they're fair. Like I don't think these people are like parse brained while they're progging. I don't think that they're like resentful about progging or anything like that. I think that they're totally fine with it. They signed up for it. They did it the day that it came out.
John,
I just think that like as consumers, we should be able to demand a product that like works out of the box. You know, to put the analogy police uniform on, like if you went to go see a band and they're tuning their instruments like when the concert starts, you'd be like, well, this is kind of bullshit.
That's very
like,
fair.
You know,
That's
this
a great
isn't the
analogy.
experience that I signed up for.
That's a great
So when we go
analogy.
into these raids that are, they say it's going to be a challenge. It's like, okay, well, did you tune it to be a challenge, or did you just turn the dial up to 100 on everything? And you're like, well, we'll just let them fucking bash their heads against it, and we'll see like how, you know, what it should be at. And I just don't like that that's kind of like an acceptable standard for development, especially when we're talking about a company like Blizzard with the amount of resources that they have. They should just have like an external raid team that like tests these things so that we don't have to have these discussions. Because like the reality where Scarlet Enclave came out and it was properly balanced to be challenging for like, you know, whatever they want it to be intended with, whatever it's supposed to be, you know, once they get all the fucking kinks ironed out. Like, we'd all be here singing the praises and just be talking about how fucking cool it is. And like, and now we're getting into the morass about like fucking kicks and stupid stuff like that. It's just like very silly to me when it's like, guys, you could have just balanced it.
I like that it's been this hard for you guys. I'm sitting here going, this is good. So not everyone is in your boat going like, no.
Unkillable though. It's not that it was hard. It was unkillable.
It is killable because people have killed it.
People did it. They did it before.
I know you do keep referring to Simonizer's guild. And it's like they're the 36th best guild at the moment. Like, you're not exactly like, If you want to reference if it's too hard for people, let's
They were the
talk
first best
Arcos.
guild in Naxxramas, though.
Yeah, that's
but I mean,
speed.
see, that's the
That's
difference.
speed.
And they
though.
have a
It's-
pedigree,
that's
so
the whole
like
thing.
using it should be,
my
like-
Wrath
not
guild,
a-
my Wrath
Wait,
guild
wait.
was 5th in speed. We were like 30th in prog because we're shit at prog. But then once everything becomes easy and it's just hold W, mash your buttons in 99, we were much better at that than getting our fucking pallies to press their cooldown when they were supposed to. When you're doing prog, it's a different thing. Like I know that they're good at speed,
It is,
but at the end of
it
the
is
day,
a different ball game.
they are 36th
Okay, that's
in
fair.
the world. And Arcos's guild, I think they're at 5 of 8 or whatever. And like they're in there grinding it out. And I haven't heard him come out going, "This is fucking shit." Like I mean, he might be there going, "This is a lot of work," but
Well, like I
No,
mean, it did
I
get nerfed
imagine-
substantially. So
He's-
like, I don't think that like me saying that it's like okay, maybe unkillable is like
Yeah,
the
but
wrong
they-
word, but it was
you keep
inaccessible for like
saying-
the majority of people.
you keep saying substantially, and yet there's only
It
35
is substantial.
guilds. No, but there's still like if you tell me that they've nerfed something substantially, I would expect more than 35 guilds to be more than 1 of 8.
Yeah,
No, because
I don't
then
think the
now
nerfs-
it's
I
been
don't
nerfed
think-
to the challenging level that it was supposed to be. So yes, this few guilds should only be killing it. But the point is that now it's killable. Now it's approachable. It was unapproachable before, and I think that's unfair to the player base to like jazz us up and be like, "Here's new content. It's going to be challenging," and then it's like it's too overtuned to the point
Too
where
challenging.
no, it's not too
Yeah,
challenging. It seemed unapproachable to me.
We're just in the
Like,
opposite.
imagine if it was you,
I think-
like going in there, banging your head against it for 6
I've done
hours,
it.
and you actually
would.
can't
done
do
that.
it.
They
I've
did
done
it.
that.
He
I
did-
like
they
it.
did that.
I've done it. I like it. I really enjoy those raid days, and I do it knowing the consequence of they'll nerf this and kneecap me, and then a bunch of shitters will beat us on prog. But I don't care. I like to be there on launch day.
That's
Launch
what-
day is fun. Launch day
Yeah.
is hype, and I don't care about getting my 14th placed medal on prog.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not the big dog. Like, if I was 1% shitter than Arcos's team, I'd be accepting that we ain't going to be anywhere near fucking first, and that's just the reality of it. Like, this is just like, I don't know. It's they're going to clear uni debt, but I graduated
I'm not
10
trying
years
to
ago.
stand
This is
for
fucking
people that are-
bullshit. Don't fucking help
I'm-
them. Like, that's.
I'm
I
not
just
trying
don't
to
understand.
stand for people to get world first. I'm trying to say that like when they say that stuff is going to be challenging, it needs to be. This just seemed like an instance where it was clearly like not approachable.
Well, this is the price of no PTR, and like you said, like they probably do have
I mean, I
enough
take issue
people.
with that.
So you wanted
Well,
a
that's it.
PTR,
This is-
JC?
This is where we're different. I love that there's no PTR because now there's a
No,
mystery
I
for
think
everyone.
it's good that
and-
there's no PTR, but I don't think that's a good excuse for it to be unbalanced.
Right.
But like you're asking for a numerical miracle on their balancing. Like
That's
what
every
how do
fucking
you
raid.
think? How do you think they could make this so that DC Green and his 19 homies could go in and they can beat this by the skin of their teeth if they all 90 pass? Like you're just asking for a miracle. And I've heard from a lot of people that they would rather it be this way. They would rather it be 10% too hard. They watch you suffer for one day because you're hyped up geeks that want to play launch day just like me, and then they go, all right, the high jump bar was 3 centimeters too tall. Now we're going to drop it down a little bit and then let people through. That is better than you guys just going 4 hours full cleared. Oh, the raid was underwhelming and everyone has a fucking sook on that side on Reddit. Like, this is the better case scenario. It's not the best, but if you're asking for perfection, that's a lot to ask for the dev team to just kind of project and hope. Like, they've got their estimate. This is where we're the opposite. I would actually say I'm impressed that it's even this close.
Okay, DC, then KPT, then John on this.
I mean, I think UB makes some fair points. Like, I don't know if I buy into like these are all like computer programs. It's all math and stuff like that. So I don't really buy that like balancing stuff is this impossibility. But I don't necessarily take issue like with what he said.
right.
Can I just say one thing to that? So,
Sure.
all right, let's math it out. Are you mathing it to Arcos taking 9 balanced druids in, or do you math it to 2 of each class for the median guild? Because then that makes it a joke for Arcos and the boys because they're going to go take the class that does a quarter more damage than everyone else, for example. Where do
I
you
don't
math
think
it?
it should be. I don't think you
Yeah.
balance it around the 1% that are going to like class stack and stuff. I think that
Yeah, but then
this is
they-
what I said earlier about like what is the intended like level of performance that like they want this to be a challenge for. Now clearly
they
they've
just
made
go
it
in
a
and
challenge
stomp
for people.
They'll just go in
Well,
and clear it in 4 hours. If you make it to
But why is
a
that
raid-
bad though? Why is it bad if the best player is that like can handle something like that? Why is it bad if they clear it really quick?
they'll complain about it. We fucking had them complain about it when shit's too easy. Like,
Yeah, but
think
most
better
they don't
for the-
represent the majority of the player base, right? They're
Then
going
why
to
are we
represent
focusing
like a
on them?
No,
fraction.
but
of it.
I still think
Because
that
Blizzard
there's-
supposedly made it a challenging raid, so it's supposed to appeal to like that upper end.
I
That's
think
like the
that
impression
there's a
that you
lot
get
of
from the post.
people. There's probably I would like to
disagree.
guess there's a lot of people that don't mind me going 4 of 8, so they go 6 of 8, and then we all watch it through, more than the crowd that want to go 8 of 8 in 1 week. And like, you know what I mean? Is it better that everyone goes through the floodgates? I think there's a good chunk of the population that are happy to actually prog within means, if that also means that the world first has to keep going for 4 days, heaven forbid, rather than like it's lame every time. That's what everyone shat on in Classic when like, oh, BWL's coming out, and whoever the fuck was the best back then, I forgot their name, and like they did it in like 51 minutes at launch,
Neon?
just done. Yeah, like no, in Classic.
Oh, Classic.
Progress.
Yeah,
It
like
was
Classic.
progress.
And everyone was like, well, that's kind of fucking lame. Like even the normies were like, I've been looking forward to this, and these guys just shit all over it in 45 minutes upon launch. We all knew it was going to happen. No one was happy that it happened though, except for them. Really, I think everyone's more happy that it confirms their struggles if you see the very best struggling. Whereas it's probably worse to see them sprint out the gate, smash it, and then regardless, the median pack's always 2 of 8. Doesn't matter how fucking easy you make it. Somehow they still end up 2 of 8 the first week. And that seems to be worse for the community from what you read. Like the backlash every fucking release.
Well, I'm not arguing to protect high-end players from struggling. Like I'm encouraging that. What I saw was struggling against something that like couldn't be done. So it just seems like, okay, well, that's just like a waste of time for those people.
We're just going
We're
back
going to go in circles. We're going to go in
this
circles,
is why
boys.
this is why flex rating being introduced is so powerful, because you're still measuring off this 20-man thing. It is impossible. The player base skill set is so fucking wide, like the common denominator or the average player and standard deviation between the top and the bottom, yada yada yada. It's like the Arcoses will fucking shit on anything that is not even like that isn't super hard. But that's why now the normie can just go in with 36 of the boys and get 5 of 8 and probably have a couple of ports or whiskeys while they do it. No, but that's like, but they went and did it. So that's where I still think we're getting a bit distracted by the progress leaderboard when fucking Galley's gone in there and did 5 of 8 in like 3 hours and said that it's good. But we keep going around in this circle of like, it's way too overtuned, it's fucked up, it's so hard.
Let me jump in.
No, it was
TC,
overtuned. I'm not commenting on like any of the older bosses, but the second boss was overtuned. It was.
Yes, okay. This is like a but they fixed it. It's
I know
been
they
nerfed,
did.
And now people, but like we're still.
And now people can kill it. Now it seems to be appropriately challenging.
I'll apologize for Tim. He's very apologetic that he made you guys waste like 9 hours playing this game, and now it's in a good spot, and it's still challenging for you, and it's not challenging for anyone that goes in with 30 plus. It seems they all seem to beat it pretty comfortably with 30 players. So the Great Wall is not quite as great as it seems. And they'll do better. They'll get it perfect next time. I'm pretty surprised that they fixed it within fucking 24 hours.
You smarmy cunt. I love it. Look, let me jump in here, boys. I'll grab the bull by the horns here. KPT, John, I think you guys about fucking 5 hours ago had something to say. Please, KPT, go for it.
Yeah, no. So like I pulled up the patch notes for Scarlet Enclave, and like the only boss that had a substantial nerf was Beatrix. It was 5% health, class abilities can't overlap, out of bounds triggers couldn't result in et cetera, et cetera. No other bosses have been touched. So then I pulled up Warcraft logs. As of right now, if we look at 40-man raids on Warcraft logs, there are 5 guilds in the world that are 8 of 8. If you look at 20-man raids, there are 2 guilds in the world that are 8 of 8. So the whole point of Beatrix being this hard wall for guilds isn't the case. Like the raid's just hard. So I mean, if that is a hill that we want to die on, it's not the case at all. Like guilds are obviously still struggling with the raid, and it's something where I would think most of the SOD community that want to do content wants a hard raid, and everyone in this call and listening knows if they did it the inverse way, where it's like, okay, let's make it face roll and then tune it that way, you would have guilds bitching, Well, my guild didn't raid right when it opened up, and now I have to do the harder version where all the sweat lords now just went right away at 3 Central, when at 3 p.m. Central on Thursday when it opened up, and they just get free loot for 1 week. It's like there's no winning with Blizzard. At least this way they can gatekeep everyone from gear.
All right, John, go for it. Were you gonna say something?
I mean, I had like a couple of questions. Like, I mean, and I don't really. I mean, I'm not familiar with the raid or even the nerfs intimately well, because I don't really know the encounter. But it seemed, and I agree that this 5% nerf. It looks like you'll wind up having quite a bit more uptime for your DPS, which is going to increase it. I guess the question that I had was like, what's the real DPS requirement before her 5% nerf, and like, why are we saying that it's impossible? I don't understand.
I was
when I
making
looked
that
at
claim because I saw some of the best players in the world, like that are supposedly capable of doing like optimal DPS, just not like basically get like they couldn't brute force it. Like the numbers weren't adding up. Like their struggles look to be like a mathematical impossibility. Like we don't have the damage or the healing or anything to do this, so therefore it's like it's overtuned. Like it can't be done.
I think Yubi's point on that.
That's the impression that I got.
I think Yubi's point on that was very fair, John. I'll just say, like, I think Yubi raised a really good point about the difference between speed and prog on that one, but maybe that's me being a bit of a cunt. But yeah, sorry, John, you were going to say.
I think that was a good point.
Yeah, I think that's it exactly. That. And I mean, because when
I was one of those dumb shits, that's why I know.
Yeah, when I looked at it, when I saw that encounter, like, hey, that's cool. Like, it looked to me, and maybe Tim would be the one who would know. It looks like they took some inspiration from like Painsmith, but the Painsmith encounter is completely different. Like I'm seeing like the quote unquote best guilds in the world get knocked around like fucking pinballs, and that encounter when you were appropriately geared on any level, if you failed that mechanic, you just died. That's it. So I don't really. I mean, that's where I'm kind of torn. I'm like, well, it's impossible and it's really difficult, and then they'll say like, well, it's kind of retail-esque. When it's like, no, I mean, because like avoidable mechanics, you just you die.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything that's really like. I mean, I get the use. It's brand new raid. I don't know what the hell any of the mechanics are.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, John. Sorry, you go, UB, and I'll
I just want to point out, like, the pool is so small that like the passes are kind of fucked up, but they still actually serve their purpose. So like you can find logs where they've killed the second boss and in 20 man and 5 of their DPS grey passed. And you're telling me that these must be the best players in the world. They all play so flawlessly. They've clearly played pretty fucking shit compared to whoever. Even though it's an elite pool, you are still worse than 80% of the other person of your same class, and that's a pretty wide threshold. Like if you go check the DPS between what someone did here and what someone did there, the margin is wide. And this is, again, I know what you're going to try and say, DC Green. I'm just pointing out, clearly these guys aren't all playing perfectly, are they? They're not all playing perfectly.
What am I trying to say? What do you think I'm trying to say?
You're going to say, oh, it doesn't matter. Like these guys are all like this 23 pass is still a million miles better than the 80 pass.
Can I ask the dumb? Let me say, DC, you and Yubi answer me this. I actually genuinely don't know the answer to this. You guys explain to me. I don't get passes, all that shit. Of the pool of passes that we have right now, the top end guilds that have gone through and killed these bosses, when Yubi says, there's guys with grey passes, does it work is it like a bell curve or whatever, where, not a bell curve, but you know what I mean? Does there have to be someone in the grey, or is it like, no, they can all... Yeah, okay.
No, there does of people that killed the boss so far. Yes.
You don't have to get grey passes.
That's how the percentage works, right?
Like from 1 to 100.
One person in the world gets a 0 every week, and one person gets 100 every week, and every single decimal in between is assigned as per percentile of real performance.
Over the entire population, but not in the raid. Like you can raid with people that all get over 70 parse.
Yeah, I understand that obviously, but I'm saying of all the raiders, I mean every guild, the system works so that someone has to be a 0, right?
The easiest way to explain this is clone me 100 times, and I'm the only player in the world that does a fight.
Yeah.
My 100 clones will be 100 to 0, and even if my 0 pass is only 200 DPS worse then my top pass, he's the fucking 0.
Yeah, and
Like,
that makes sense. So my only question has been, so it's not that you can get 199s, but my question has always been, why are 99s so common if someone has to be at the lower end of the curve?
because you only have to get it on any given week. Like,
I guess.
you can.
But
You
every
can, I
man
can
and his
get
dog
one-
seems to get 99
Well, it's also
every
done
week.
by night. It's also done by night.
I feel like
Yeah,
everyone gets a
well,
99.
it's-
Everyone gets a 99 every week, like every player.
Like if
it
I
used
press
to be-
100 on a boss and nobody else that night does more damage than I did, then I'll lock in 100. But
I
then
thought it
someone the
was
next
weekly,
day can.
unless it's changed.
Oh, no, I
so
get that.
someone the next day then could also parse 100, and their 100 could be higher than mine. And then when the week is over, they'll rank everyone based on that.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
all the hundreds will then get ranked against each other, and then that way you'll
Yeah.
determine who is
No,
actually the
So
best. Like on the week.
Yubi's explanation.
Like you get parses on the day.
Yeah, Yubi's explanation is how I thought it worked. But like I said, my only question has been, and this is just a layman's opinion, I feel like literally every WoW player gets 99s. And I'm like, what is going on?
Every dog on Reddit gets a 99 once, and then he tells you that he's a career 99er.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a big.
yeah.
This is why, if you get to the pointy end of being a fucking egomaniac, like some of us passers have been in the past, you start sussing out people, and it's much more impressive when your median average pass all phase long is like a 97.
Right.
You're kind of a big dick then.
Yeah,
But if it's
okay.
like a 64, but you got 199, that's like, you got given a few buffs that week or some
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
You got
yeah.
lucky. So
You high
that's
roll.
yeah.
No, I
But
love
yeah,
it.
I'm just saying with this comparison, this is where it's skewing. These grey passing rogues are really fucking good players.
Well, let
They're
me
just
tell
the-
you why
they're the
grey
worst
passing.
of the guys that have done it. Yeah, like they're just they're like some of these could be deaths, but like there's kills here
That's
where they've done
probably
it
not
pretty
it.
clean,
Well, maybe.
and half the raid have only 50 passed. Now,
Sure. Can I
there's a
explain
big,
why?
it's a big fucking spread at the moment, and you'd have to get the graphs and shit out. But like, there's kills here, and half the raid are doing literally like the median performance, and if anything, 50 is kind of actually like below true median, because that's factoring in guys that died that get grey passes, etc. For people that live the whole fight, a 50 pass is pretty sub.
Can I explain why?
Well, I know how it works, but if you want to explain it,
You don't though. You're saying all this stuff, and
I
it's like
know
you're
how
missing,
it
like,
works,
the whole
but
thing.
explain it for everyone else.
When we're talking about the math of whether it's possible or not, and you've got raid
That's not what I'm
teams that
talking
are
about.
yeah, no. But when we were talking about it earlier, is what led me down this tangent. Is that like
Okay.
some of these guys are doing pretty crap DPS, and their raid team killed a boss. Like,
Well, it looks
If
that
I-
way, and you're missing the reason why.
no, I guarantee you that I'm not.
You haven't said it though, so I think you are.
All right, go. You explain it, because I know that this is like these guys aren't playing perfectly. They're playing far.
I'm not
far
arguing
from
that they are.
perfectly, and they're killing bosses. Like that's all I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. And we're pretty much we're shit, and we're still almost clearing this place. That's my 55-minute rant. We suck on the first weekend, and we are still killing bosses. Like next week, some of these
Okay, don't back
will be
yourself
laughable.
into the corner by making definitive statements when we're not done with the argument. So, like, I'll give you a pass there. Let me just tell you what's going on.
Settle down.
Ad fights, the damage that you do on ads do not count towards your parse. Only damage that you do to the boss. So
Players
if,
that aren't selfish and do their fucking job don't pass as well. Okay, thank you. This isn't
yeah,
revealing
so
to
like,
me.
well, yeah, but you're saying that these people are doing shitty and they're still killing it, and it's like, well, yeah, they're gonna get a shitty parse if
Yeah.
they're like responsible for doing mostly damage to ads. That's just gonna happen. That doesn't mean that they're bad. So
Yeah, but
to
if
say
it's-
that like,
if
look,
it's
he's got a
launch
low
week-
parse, he didn't play well, is silly. Like,
No, but
that means that he probably was still
if
playing well.
it's prog week, the strategy is usually just the greatest output of the team. We're not having pass pigs yet, are we? It's not like a Nubarak.
Well,
on
you're the one that
15th
brought up the
week.
parses.
No, but I'm talking about them for their fucking purpose of output. You're the one that brought up like this is almost mathematically fucked, and I'm here looking at passes of people not being pass piggies. No one's a pass
Yeah,
piggy first week,
because it only
and they're not
yeah.
playing that well yet. Like that's just
You're just arguing from like the wrong. You're like, I see the point that you're trying to make, but you're just like you're not using the right details here.
I'm laughing because
Okay,
I'm so happy
sorry.
not to
All
be in
these-
the argument for once.
All these guys are this 23 passing rogue. He's just a lovely dude. He must have done all the kicks, and he killed everything that doesn't count for a log. He actually played flawlessly. Give him his pass. It's fine. Like I'm just trying to say, that we're not playing that well. I know.
No, you're trying. Yeah, you're trying to make the argument that because these parses are not that great, that means that you don't have to be playing at peak performance. And I'm saying that the parse does not represent that, especially in an ad fight.
No, but not okay. So some of them, sure. Like I understand what you're saying. I'm usually the person in a sweaty team that puts my hand up to do the shitty chore that gives me a 70. I understand what you're trying to say.
So am I. Look at my KT parses.
But on this launch week, you can't just excuse everyone that's done fucking ordinary and go, oh, he must have been doing his jobs. Some of these guys are playing shit and they're still killing bosses, is all I'm trying to say. And it's like, surely some of you have experience where you've progged and like you've wiped 14 times on a boss in the first week. Second week, you're going to one-shot it.
Are you looking at 20s or 40s, by the way?
Passes. Oh, like there's a whole mixed bag. I've just gone through like 10 kills. Like,
okay, well, I mean, like the amount of people that you bring makes a huge difference. So like, there's a lot of like, I'm sorry, if we're going to use data to like contest things and make arguments, they have to be consistent.
These are 20-man logs only. I'm just saying I've checked a whole heap of logs and like there's a whole heap, like almost, again, because there's so few kills, there's probably only like one person of any given class that has a 99 on any given boss because of how small the pool is. But still, you go here like, fuck, there's a lot. Let's go with balanced druids because there's a fuckload of them because of how strong they are. It's like there's raids here where 73, 53, 37. That's the 3 boomies that killed this fucking boss. Like,
yeah, because they're probably mostly doing damage to ads because that's what they're good for. They're AOE class.
Yeah, but
so they're not doing that much damage to the boss.
So what's not a good AOE class then that gets to be a selfish prick that'll just single target the boss? Who's like first to say you didn't have to AOE because you shit out?
Man, I would say rogues, but like depending on like how high priority the ads are, then the rogues would be on the ad.
It has 2 rogues, and fuck me, the good one's 35. The shit one's
23.
But
but like what I just said is like if the ads are way more important to kill than the boss, then you want the rogue single target damage to be on that so it dies faster. Like the priority in the parses, it's really hard to determine on ad fights. Like I would imagine that like for example, like Gothic the Harvester is not counted in parses on Warcraft logs because it's such a weird fight, the way that it, you have like ads for 5 minutes and then you do the boss. So they don't count it. They count it for speed, but they don't count it for like regular parsing. I imagine Beatrix, once all this shakes out, will fall into the same category where it's like a weird boss. So it's not one that like parses are going to be taken very seriously. Because like most of the fight is ads.
All right, boys, I'm gonna jump in here. That has been fucking invigorating. I was literally in tears laughing at one point.
I just know that I'm gonna be right in 2 weeks when everyone shows up and does 33% more damage because now they know how to efficiently cleave fucking ads down and do all this other bullshit and know all the mechanics so much better. All these guys will come back and go, "Fuck, I was shit last week."
I love it.
I'm actually an ape. From like comparison to last week, it happens every single phase that's ever come out, even in raids that we know, yet alone shit that we don't know. Everyone just gets astronomically better the next week.
Get a room.
You go home and you go, fuck, I really should have pressed Blade Flurry when there's 2 fucking spiders next to the boss, shouldn't I? But you didn't do that on launch week, especially when you didn't know that 2 fucking spiders were going to spawn. Like, it just does my head in to not realize that like literally player improvement with knowledge is going to be the biggest buff unless the devs decide to nerf it by 50%.
I love every second of this. I'm going to jump in. KVT, the boys, fucking, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Okay, look, guys, let's do the thing. No. Let's do the thing. Let's actually talk about the raid, which is a funny thing to say 2.5 hours into the pod. And I shout out, obviously, me saying this would only be 60 to 90 minutes when we started, which I always do. But then you guys fucked up because you started making me have fun. I've really been enjoying this chat. And DC and Yubi and everyone's been a fucking all-star. Thank you. I've been having a lot of fun.
I have nowhere to be. This is going 8 hours.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's actually start talking about the raid now because KBT, I might get you started if that's okay. And anyone jump in. But I want to, well, Zim and everyone, like you guys who have done the raid. Tim's here. Tim, look, I'm going to be cheeky and I'm going to say if you are at a keyboard, Timothy, and if you are able to have fun with us, I would very much so love. Fuck the PR department. As far as they know, I'm talking to fucking Jim Tones. If you could give us a few comments on what the boys are about to say on the bosses, that would be fantastic. Now, Tim, a funny thing, though, is I've gotten the impression that you've sort of made it sound like you've taken a bit of, like, obviously you're leading the team, but you've made it sound like you've taken a bit of a step back in terms of encounter design, and that new people have been brought in and they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting on some of these raid encounters. Tell me if that's very wrong. And if like, no, Josh, fuck you, I still do all these encounters. Like, I'm not sure, but either way, I want to get the boys talking about the encounters and the specifics of what happens in these encounters, because we've been doing very broad strokes so far. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the boys think about the encounters so far. Tim, I've been hounding your PR department, who are so good to me. I just went down to this event in Sydney the other day and, you know, obviously met a few of the PR people, met a few of the devs. You know, it's funny, Morgan Day was flown out from California for this event, and I obviously just interviewed him a month ago, and we had a laugh about, I got roasted, fucking eviscerated by all the retail players in the YouTube comments of my interview with Morgan, which is something I'm not used to. Normally people are very positive towards my interviews from the classic community, but the second I talk about retail, fuck, the retailers did not like me, and they thought I was being a fucking rude cunt to Morgan. And I grabbed Morgan at this event, we had a laugh, and I go, mate, just I hate asking this, but just to clarify, please tell me you were okay with what I did in that interview and you could see the shtick. And he's like, mate, yeah, fucking whatever. It was fine. You weren't out of line at all. It was like a normal interview. And I was like, thank you. And I was like, fucking YouTube commenters. But anyway, that's another story. So what I'm getting at, Tim, is I would love to... I've been hounding the PR department saying, get me, Tim Jones, for half an hour, because, guys, it is important to chronicle the making of these raids. Like, to get a dev who helped build these things for a fucking journal that could last online for years to come, that people can look back to and go, oh, so that's how they made Scarlet Enclave, and this was the decision-making process and all that shit, that we just don't really have that much of in regards to old WoW content. It bums me out that they've kind of knocked me back, because I understand why. They're kind of like, look, you know, if we don't have super hype new content coming out, even though like Scarlet Enclave I think would categorize as that, they were kind of like, wait till MOP, wait till whatever's coming after Season of Discovery, and, you know, no interviews for now. And I was just like, fuck, that's not fun. Come on, let's get the guys talking about this shit. But anyway, that's my rant done. So Tim, I won't tell if you won't tell if you make any commentary on the raid now while we're podcasting. Guys, we all agree? No one will dob on Tim?
No.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Tim said he made Beatrix, and dude, the Beatrix fight is fucking sick. Like, it looks awesome. I just commented in the chat. It looks like Battle of the Bastards. You're like in the middle of this like giant rank of surrounding enemies, and they're like throwing footmen at you, and like horses are charging through, and like meteors are falling from the sky. Like, it's absolutely sick. It's phenomenal.
Well, I mean, as Tim's saying, he has actually... Tim's saying I'm right. He has taken a little bit of a step back in general, but he did make Beatrix. And yeah, sorry, Tim, if you're out with the fucking family, mate, forget about me. Don't worry about that. But whatever. We'll see what the boys say and see if anything fires you up. KPT, let's get started, mate. Boss number 1, Balnazar, right?
Yep, Balnazar.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah.
What does he do? Do you think it's crazy? Do you think it's manageable? Talk people through this fight a little bit.
So first phase is primarily just a tank and spank. Like, you start with him. Well, first, I guess you have to go into a Scarlet building, and you find the last boss, Calderon, and he comes out and warps out of the room. And then by a fountain, there's Balnazar just pacing around a fountain. You engage Balnazar. The first phase is primarily a tank and spank. He has a carrion swarm that he, like a shadow bolt that he will shoot out at someone. It'll put a dot on them and anyone that is around them. I believe once you phase him to 70%, it activates phase 2, just like Onyxia. Once you get on to 70, she flies up. Same with Balnazar. He flies up. Once Balnazar flies up, around this fountain, there are 4 Scarlet Priests in each cardinal direction, if you want to look at it, north, south, east, west, that have a radiating light. And then, like, saturation comes out of your screen when you are not standing in this said light by the Scarlet Priests that have spawned. And the kind of the mechanic here is he continues his mechanics from the first phase where it's his carrion swarm, et cetera, et cetera. As well as if you are not standing within the radiant light from the priests, you are not inherently, you are just silenced. As well as I believe there are 2 separate ads that come out. One is going to be pretty much just a ad you tank and spank, and the other is going to be like an ad that fears. The issue is if you tank these ads within the light that the Scarlet Priests have, they become enraged and will maybe 2-3 shot at tank, as well as they fear. So you have to kind of micromanage all these ads. Melee normally go on the ads, where range will burn down Balnazar until he reaches 30%, which he will come down. So it's really ad management also while he's still carrion swarming. So you can't just sit in one of the priest's auras. You kind of have to bounce around. And everyone has to be coordinated so you're not spreading this carrion swarm throughout the raid, taxing your healers on mana. Great, grand, wonderful. You get him from 70 to 30%. It's 30 or 40. He flies back down. 40. So then 40, he flies back down. I believe the fearing and the like the ghostly ads, we'll call them, they go away. That come into phase 2, and then Balnazar starts summoning infernals that come down that essentially need to be off tanked, as well as you still need to stand in the light from the priests, because that silence mechanic, I believe, maintains throughout the 30-0%. So it's a really interesting fight. It's ad management, party management, especially with 20 people. I would have liked to see more priests, because this is going to be one of the fights in the raids where, with the carrion swarm and only having 4 priests, the more people you have in the raid, the harder stuff's going to tick, given the quicker you'll be able to burn him down. But that is Balnazar, kind of the TLDR of Balnazar.
Fuck me, Yubi. I wasn't expecting that good of a fucking breakdown. That was amazing.
That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
I watched all like Sadako's 2-minute clips like a few hours ago, and that was almost like a fucking transcript of the video. Like, it brought it immediately back to me. I don't think he missed a single fucking mechanic.
Jesus Christ, the countdown guests don't fuck around. KVT, very well done, mate. Well, look, let me throw it around the table. Guys, let's give Tim the feedback. Are we thumbs up or thumbs down on Balnazar?
Can you do a thumbs medium?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Tell me
Like,
why.
the only reason
Tell
I
me
would
why
say
thumbs
thumbs
medium.
medium-
Why thumbs medium?
Like,
He doesn't cast sleep.
yeah, exactly why. Yeah, it's Red Lord that doesn't cast sleep.
Yeah.
So like, I'm a sweaty player, but like to play with my friends that I played with in 2019 Classic, like I'm in what you would call like a dad guild. Like, people have fun, et cetera, et cetera.
You're the ringer.
Yeah. So like, I'll come to raid fully buffed, whatever the case may be. And it just feels like for the first Scarlet Enclave to be Balnazar, like when we stepped in there on Thursday. Thursday.
Did that bum you out a little bit, having him first from a lore perspective?
Yeah, like I thought when I saw the bosses announced, I thought he was going to be the last boss.
Yeah.
But like,
it was leaked in an order that made it seem like he was last.
And like, it's just like, if they could tune him down maybe like 20-30% to make, because right now, like, for non-sweaty guilds that want to have fun, like, it is a mechanically demanding fight. Like, you have to rely on your tanks, really, because they have to sit with their ass directly at the end of that, like the priest's aura, so mobs don't become enraged. So
as we said,
slip up.
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say, as we said earlier, KBT, to that point, for the first boss in the raid, like, it seems extraordinarily pug unfriendly if you're not sitting in a voice chat.
Yeah, and it's like pass fail. Like, there's pass fail mechanics rely on tanks. So like, if your tanks don't know what they're doing, which, like, fine, first 2 or 3 pulls, but it would be nice to have it tuned down a little bit just to get your foot in the door of the raid. Like, I love how the fight is designed, but it's just, if it could be, the numbers could be tweaked a little so guilds wouldn't hit their head up against the wall for 3 hours, that would be preferable.
But
the only thing that I would like
they made his fear 1.5 seconds instead of 1.
You fucking cunt. John, you were going to say?
Well, yeah, like, the only thing that from the few times that I've seen it, it looks like the animation on the swarm, it doesn't seem like it's very clear. Because I know that it's a radius. I don't know what the radius is. and it doesn't. I don't see like any sort of circle to indicate like where you're safe or where you're not safe. I mean, I think that those are the kinds of, if they're going to have mechanics like that, I mean, how are they telegraphed would go a long
I was
way.
under the impression it's an aura.
Yeah,
And
like
that he
once it
shoots
hits you,
shadow
it is an
bolt.
aura. Yeah,
Yeah, but it damages people around you. Correct.
It's like a
yeah,
ticking
it's like
dot,
an
correct.
it's like an aura,
Yeah,
and
but-
you have to be spread out from people, but you also can't be too far because when you get isolated, don't you like die instantly or something?
There's mobs that spawn when you're like over 6 yards away from somebody else.
and yeah, they'll
Okay,
get you.
yeah. So it's like I like the design behind the mechanic. It's like you can't be too close to people, but like you also can't like isolate yourself because you're facing a dreadlord and they like prey upon people that like succumb to cowardice and like run away from their raid. I think that's really like thematic and cool. But I do agree that the telegraphing of it seems really weird. Like when I was watching the streams, I kind of had to intuit it. I couldn't really like see what was happening, but I could see people had the debuff. So I just kind of intuited that like, oh, it must be an aura around him or something like that.
Because I mean, the only one that I saw that was a guide was by somebody who was literally standing, didn't move, in like their little circle, and were just blowing up the raid, or their group. So I mean, that was probably not a great video to watch. Just to get just try to get my nerd on and find out what that encounter was, and it's just like, well, that's kind of dumb. If you don't see, like, you're supposed to stay away, but we don't know how far away that is, and it just seems like you can telegraph that a little bit more effectively.
Give it a week,
In
or will come out. And
in 24 hours, you're gonna have that fucking train horn. Fucking move or too far. Yeah.
Well,
Then
even that's not going to help you because it's going to tell you like, yes, you have this debuff, cool, but where is the right spot for me to be where I don't blow up most of my raid, but I'm not too far away. Like I really dislike mechanics like that,
/ range,
especially if they're not. Yeah, but see, that's the whole thing is you're still having to rely on DBM or like another add-on, right?
I thought range was disabled. Or is that just the classic client?
Oh no, you can slash range
does-
6 in game right now.
Oh, can
Yeah.
you? Okay.
it full pops up with a radar and everything.
Hooray. Sorry, let me bring you into the mix, mate. How are you?
Oh, all good. I've been staying quiet 'cause I've been away from SOD for a little bit, but I am really enjoying hearing about the encounters because it's one of the things I was looking forward to. So
Oh, all good. We'll pipe up whenever you want, mate. If you're happy to let the guys, if you're happy to listen to the guys, all good. Sorry, keep going, guys. We're still finishing up the review of Balnazar. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Anything else to say on this one?
I think it looks cool.
I really love that the last phase, he's got like a soft enrage timer that's based on like the infernals. Like it's so fucking cool and flavorful. Like, man, like they did a really good job with the Dreadlord flavor, like on this fight. I think I talked about it like a couple weeks ago on like the pod where I was like hypothesizing like fights that they could do with Balnazar, and I was like, dude, if he's like casting Carrion Swarm and like infernals, like I'm gonna just like gush, and here we are. He's doing it. The only thing is like he casts mind controls in the second phase, I believe, where he probably should cast sleep. That would be like a little bit more flavorful. But I'm also cool with Balnazar being like an elite dreadlord, so he like mind controls people, doesn't sleep them. So other than that, like 10 out of 10 on the flavor and the design. Like it's top notch.
Fair enough. Arcos, thank you very much for the raid, baby. I hope you had a good time in the Scarlet. I presume you're doing Scarlet Enclave again tonight. Ubi's hit us up with 75 people for the raid. Jesus.
Yeah, I've been watching his stream when he was raiding. It looks I like his music choices. I was raving
actually,
at like 7:30 in the morning.
I'm so upset you've said that because I think the one note Patricia had about fucking Arcos' stream the other night was at least he plays good music.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I watched him for a bit and I like his music.
She said, "Tell Arcos I
me-
like his taste in music," and I said, "I will never tell him that."
Me and my dog were genuinely dancing in the office watching the stream on the second monitor.
Very good, very good. All right, look, let's give a round the table real quick. Score out of 5 for Balnazar. Everyone, Ubi, kick us off.
4 for someone that hasn't done it.
Yeah. All right, DC.
I might say 4.5 because like I'm a little perturbed by the 1 second cast time on the ads.
Okay.
Other than that, though, I think the boss itself is like really cool.
All right, KVT.
4.
Okay, John.
I have no real
You haven't seen it?
opinion.
All good. All good.
No, I haven't seen it. Haven't done it.
All good. Zim.
I think I'm going to say 4.5, closer to 5.
Beautiful. All right, Tim, give the team a win on that one. Let's move on to boss number 2. the dreaded Beatrix. I just want to say, I mean, I am a huge Final Fantasy IX fan, so I really appreciate the shout out here. So thank you for doing that. It's really nice to see that the classic team at the end of the day are just fucking gamers. So thank you, I appreciate it. Beatrix, guys, the fucking wall, if it is the wall, as Sinner would say. KPT, mate, you fucked up because you did the first one so well. Now I'm gonna have to ask you to do the second one as well.
So yeah, Beatrix. So after you kill Balnazar, you get. The only reason I'm explaining this because it does matter within the fight. Then what is it? Calderon spawns and blah 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 blah. RP happens. He teleports everyone into a dungeon. You get out of the dungeon or out of your jail cell in the dungeon, and you talk to a night elf. And this night elf says, "So and so and so and so commanders are empowered." Which keep that in the back of your mind because that does matter. So you get out. Yeah, fuck off from the night elf, and you start running down to Beatrix. While you're on your way, you have these Scarlet Mage Towers, and you can go in, or Scarlet Buildings, you go in, and you start killing commanders. At each raid spawn, there's going to be 6 commanders. And if you start noticing, the night elf said these 2 commanders are empowered, which the way this fight works is each commander you kill will negate a mechanic from the fight. But the problem is the 2 commanders that are empowered, no matter what, that week, and people are hypothesizing that the commanders that are quote unquote empowered will rotate every week to give the fight flavor on a week to week basis.
I would not be shocked.
Kind of like the BWI effects, it seems like.
Yeah. So great. You can't, like, you don't kill those first because you want to kill the first 2 because there will leave 4 mechanics up for the fight. So
there's 6 mechanics total, right? And you can take 2 of them off the board, and then 2 of them are always empowered.
Correct. So yeah, leaving you 4 mechanics, which my main gripe of the fight is they didn't fucking tell anyone that was a mechanic. So guilds just went in and like, oh, we have trash to kill. This is a mini boss. Cool. Kill. And they didn't realize they were essentially enabling mechanics or negating mechanics for the fight that they were going to do.
Suckers wasted their time. Am I right, DC? All right. Fucking got him.
Well, that's why I cited that standards did multiple times reset the instance so that they could tailor their things better for what they wanted, and they were still unable to kill it. That's why I kept bringing that up.
Which, I mean, as somebody that hasn't been playing SOD recently, unknown mechanics is something I wanted from it, right? Part of what I run into with Classic, and it gets me frustrated on occasion, is it's all mechanics we've known for 20 plus years, right? And when people screw them up, it feels bad because everybody knows what we're going into.
Yeah.
There's not anything
But
new,
to be fair,
right? But like,
sorry, Harath, if I can just say, to be fair, it's like asking someone to write a new page in the Kama Sutra. Like at a certain point, we've done it all.
right.
Thank you.
I think part of that's
DC.
like
That analogy.
Vivid analogy.
That's
I love that.
All right.
But anyway,
I digress.
So again, I can only speak to the mechanics that I have seen. So like essentially you get in this like square where you engage Beatrix, and one of the mechanics that she will do is she will have like footmen and horses. If anyone has done Karazhan, it's the same mechanic as the end boss in Karazhan, where they march at you, you find a gap within the wall, you run through the gap, and you're good to go. The only difference is where Karazhan is singular, this is modular. They will come from all 4 different directions of this square you are fighting in. So you have to dodge each one of those infantry or soldier lines that she sends out. One of the other mechanics that she does is going to be, or that I have seen, is Meteor, which essentially she will have like a swirly circle that spawns on the ground. That means get in here, and she will drop a meteor on the raid. The more people you have within said meteor, the more damage gets done, or less damage, excuse me. It gets spread throughout the 20 players.
It's a soak.
Yeah,
standard meteor. Yeah.
It damage is increased for each person outside of it to the entire raid.
Yep. So that is where you would have like your major DRs. So like from what I've seen, like guilds, essentially, if you have a disc priest, which you should, you're going to be dropping barrier down there to soak the majority of that meteor damage from everyone within the raid. Issue with that is she will also spawn ads during the fight, and these ads do have a knockback. So there is a chance where you will all stack up for said meteor, and then an ad will just knock everyone out. And if you have 2 or 3 people that don't make it back in, your clothies are going to die, or your people with low health aren't going to survive the meteor soak. Other than that, I'm trying to think of the 2 other mechanics I saw. There was the priests. So they also have priests around the outside that they will periodically like holy lightning. Like if any of you have seen like the Ziliac 4 horseman mechanic where it will chain. I don't believe it does increasing damage per jump, but that will also kill. And then there is it shell shock? Is that the mechanic where it brings people down to 1 health?
I think so. The artillery one.
Yeah. So yeah, then there's shell shock, which essentially she will randomly target 3 people within the raid, which there is no like marker over your head or like warning, of course, because DBM they didn't know the fight. It'll just randomly drop 3 people within the raid down to 1 health, and they immediately need to be healed back up.
Let's use this opportunity, guys, because obviously Tim's speaking up in chat now, and I don't really, I mean, this is not a knock on Tim. I don't know if, like, because people get uppity about, because this has been happening over the last 24 hours, like, oh, there's a fucking dev in so-and-so's chat telling them how to do the fight. Wah, fucking blah, blah, blah. Tim mentions here, he says, confession priest deals bonus damage if you're not spread. So there's an interesting note there for you guys. I've got no dramas with fucking asking Tim a question or 2, but I'll throw it to you guys. Fucking, I don't know, KPT, DC, anyone, now's your opportunity. I'm sure Tim looks like he's happy to quickly answer questions, but I'll give you this challenge. You've got to ask a question like Josh. Ask him an interesting question, not just, oh mate, what am I supposed to do at this part of the fight? Ask him where, why, and how. Beatrix is his baby. Ask him what the fuck was going through his mind. Who wants to put the first question to Tim? Nobody. You're all shy now.
Someone be brave.
Oh no, I'll do it. I mean, with the shell shock ability that brings everyone down to, or not everyone, three members of the raid down to 1 health. Was there any thought given to like a warning or like a marker gets put above their head? Just because with all the mechanics happening within that fight, it would be very, very helpful to know that. So like priests could pre-shield and pre-hot these people rather than just, oh, this ability happened. I'm panicking, looking through my raid frames. Who's at 1? Okay, try and heal them up as fast as possible.
Will someone else think of the next one? Don't ask the next question while Tim is typing away an answer to that one. We'll just say, like, on that ability, has that Zim? Did that guys cause you guys grief when that one went out?
It surprised us, but it just seemed like it was a timing thing. Like as soon as it went out, we also had Meteor coming in, so I was like, oh, just yeah, it was a surprise at first for sure. I think we had
a similar vein. They've done that a lot of times. Cut 5 people to 10%, and then there's also a spread mechanic, and if you didn't get more than 14 players, like those 3 will die. And then, like, we've handled these in the past with just, as some outcomes were as basic as don't use your fucking healthstone until you get targeted by this specific thing this boss does. Like that, I think there's a fight in Wrath or some shit where that is like just the community strategy of how to beat it. Not saying that it works for this, but like we've had this a lot, I guess, as Josh was saying, like you can't, I would be impressed to see a unique raid mechanic in literally any way, shape or form that isn't like a reskin of what you've got. Like you can't make the Meteor an Icicle and call it a new mechanic. Like if it's the same shit, I don't think we can. It's just colors and themes that change now and maybe combinations and sequences. But yeah, I think
in saying that though, Yubi, I'm also like, even though I know I literally just said like, haven't we kind of done it all? But I also don't necessarily.
It's new to classic.
Yeah, I don't like the defeatist attitude of like that means just stop trying as well. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, like I'm inclusive of everything that's happened in retail. If we could pull from retail, the candy shop gets a lot bigger of what they can do to us.
Yeah. But
there are still like, at the end of the day, it's all just jump rope. Just depends on what kind of jump rope we're playing. And a boss using its eyeballs to shoot a laser across the floor and a dragon breathing fire in a line. That's what they are kind of the same, but they are very different. Like it still mixes it up, even though you are doing the same thing. But I think we've, the surprise is that we don't know what toys they're going to throw at us now. When you get new raids, Are we getting laser eyes, or are we getting concoction bombs like putricide or something? Like, it'll be akin to something that we have done in the past if you've played Warcraft for 20 years. But the fact is that we won't know this time. That's what's probably the most
I've
fun
always
about it.
kind of been surprised that WoW, like maybe WoW gamers don't want this, I don't know, but I'm really surprised that WoW hasn't taken a little bit more from the Final Fantasy rating playbook of somewhat just having a bunch of Dance Dance Revolution going on, of just your character can see all the bombs going off around the screen and you have to thread the needle and walk between the bad zones and make sure you're in the clear. Like, WoW doesn't do that much, in my opinion.
I've just had the realization, like, now we've probably tempted Tim. The next raid will have a boss encounter that like makes you play live Connect 4 against the boss, and every encounter is unique, and he's just going to completely fuck our shit up trying to figure that out. Like, how long would it take us to learn that we're playing Connect 4 on the floor of the boss room while DPSing and healing? Try and fire that one up, Tim. That'd be great to see.
While Tim
just noughts and crosses. Noughts and crosses. Keep it simple.
Yeah. While Tim is still feverishly typing away there, guys, let's start the review of Beatrix a bit more. Like, what I don't want to conflate the two discussions, because obviously we just had a large discussion about Beatrix's difficulty, and I know it's incredibly hard to extract the difficulty part of the argument from the conversation when reviewing Beatrix. But like, I don't know how you do this, KPT. I mean, what do you think of this Beatrix encounter, sort of difficulty notwithstanding, if that's even a question I can ask?
I mean, I love it. It harkens back almost to like an Ulduar raid where it's modular, so you can kind of piece it together how you want to do it. It'd be really awesome, like if there was like a little Easter egg in there where if you did it on what the developers deemed like the hardest mode, where you have these 4 commanders up and you kill the 2 easiest commanders, it drops like an additional piece of loot or a different piece of loot. Like, that would even make it better. But it's one of the first fights in Classic where like your eyes have to be darting around your screen almost at all times to be able to see what the hell is going on.
It's a max zoom fight.
Yeah, like almost top down. Like normally in Classic, you don't have to play top down like you do in retail. And on Beatrix, it's like you want to play top down on that fight to see what the hell is going on. So I thought it was, I mean, tuning aside, a very fun fight.
DC, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my only issue was that it looked like it was too overwhelming for like what players were able to like output and stuff like that. But now that it has had the, you know, has gotten the pass over it for tuning, it seems to be in the appropriate like challenge range that they anticipated and expected to give players. So in that regard, and then yeah, I think like flavorfully and thematically and stuff like that, like the fight is just like a treat to the eyes. Like just watching people do it, like it just looked so cool to be like surrounded by this like Scarlet garrison, you know, full of troops and cavalry and artillery, and they're all casting like different abilities and taking commands from Beatrix. It's really, really cool. I like it a lot. While we maybe have Tim on the phone here, to piggyback off something KPT was saying, I heard that Beatrix is actually the boss that drops the Ashbringer, the thing that starts the Ashbringer quest. So, yeah. Tim, is there a combination of generals that you can do that guarantees that the Ashbringer drops? Is there anything like that? People
Come on, mate. You've got to ask questions he can fucking answer. Come on.
Yeah, he's not
gonna fucking tell you that.
Dude, he brought it up earlier that you might be doing a combination that gives you more loot or something like that. So I'm just asking in the same vein of that. Is there like a lever that like you could do the hardest one and guarantee an Ashbringer?
That's a classic.
Okay, he says it's always guaranteed.
Oh, here we go. All right. I was going to say that's a classic Simpsons question of, is there a way to get out of the dungeon without using the wizard key? But anyway, fucking what was I going to say? So DC, difficulty notwithstanding, you're still thumbs up on this one. You like the fight?
Yeah, I mean, like all the fights that I've seen, I think are pretty incredible. I think that, you know, Scarlet Enclave is like living up to the standard or the expectations in terms of new stuff for Classic, and like, you know, really like occupying the design space that hasn't been iterated on. I
Right.
think it's
So-
I think it's 10 out of 10 in that regard.
Just because
I
this
think
is
it's too busy. It's too busy. I'd like to see the fights a bit more akin to like Vanilla Baron, where like 39 of us stand in a spot and one person runs out every half a minute. I believe
Right.
that is a prosperous future for the game.
Well, let's be brutal, because I said we have a relatively unique opportunity
I'm
here.
being facetious.
No, I know
but
that.
I did mean to lean into how incredible is it, how far we've come.
No,
I
I
wanted to
agree.
bring that example specifically.
Completely agree. Completely agree. But let's have a bit of fun because, like I said, we do have a unique opportunity here with Tim being the captive audience. Let's just let's throw a bit of a critique at him in terms of, if I were to say to Zim, I'll turn to you. I'll ask all the guys this. If I were to say to you, Zim, if you could change the Beatrix encounter, what would you change that maybe irks you slightly in the encounter?
I had no issues with the encounter, and we did it pre-nerf, and now that it's nerfed, I think it's going to be, more enjoyable.
All right.
But it's
No
hard. I'm
notes.
sure there's one out there, but I think it'd be kind of neat if Stock Break hit more people just to make it a little bit more challenging. But
All right.
that's just me.
All right. KPT, be brutal. What would you change, if anything?
I'd stock break. It's the stock break mechanic. Like, if you want to have it hit more people, great. But just some sort of visual clarity of like, even 3 seconds before it goes out, of like, hey, these people are getting brought down to 1 health in 3 seconds, would be preferable.
1 week DBM will have you.
I've got an answer that'll upset Josh a lot. I never enjoy fights that have shifting, like week to week differences, because it ruins me getting to consistently play the fight the same and pass better. So the fact,
with
I say it as like jokingly, but we will find out that a combo is better than the rest.
Right.
And then that week will become the Giga Tryhard week that everyone gets a big fucking boner and gets selfish about. And that's why I don't actually like it, is when you have to deal with the past piggy in your raid going, this is my week to try hard, I'm going to be a bastard about it. And
There
go,
you go.
fuck's sake.
I was going to ask this question, but I think Tim's just answered it, because I was going to say to you, Keith, KPT, but, tell me after the stock break goes out what the damage profile is like. Are the people who get brought down to 1 HP then immediately susceptible to a one-shot and they just die? Or is there an opportunity for the healers to heal them up? Because if there is an opportunity for the healers to heal them up, I controversially am against you on this one and would say, as a healer, I don't want to be told who's being hitting by the stock break. I want it to be a surprise and be like, oh, fuck, it was these 3. And then as a healer, like, the whole fun of healing for me is the dynamics of the unknown. And like, I go, oh, sweet, those 3 got hit. I now have to turn my heal, pivot straight away and heal them up straight away, like, as fast as I can. As opposed to the big glowing dot, and I've got 3 seconds to go, oh, okay, so Ubiquitous, DC, and KPT are about to be brought down to 1 health. I'll just get all my cooldowns ready to go, and there you go, boys. That's just a weird thing from me, but Tim says that the players that get hit by the stock break apparently are immune to damage for the duration of stock break. So it may be advantageous to leave them stunned in some cases depending on what class call is going out. Also, Tim says, you wanting to choose the easiest version of the encounter every week is the exact reason why you have to deal with a subset of the unfavorable mechanics in some weeks. Surprise, they do rotate. Lol. So KPT, having heard all that, how do you feel?
Like, damage immunity, sure, but I mean, sometimes in that fight, like, I don't want to say it's a very RNG heavy fight, but I mean, you can get a bad roll of the dice. I mean, from what I have seen on streams, like, stock break will come out and there's 8 other people that are taking damage, so sometimes you can't triage before you get to the people that have stock break. But I mean, if that's something where they extended the cooldown, because from watching the guilds run it, it's just a lot of the people would like die to like stock break into meteor, which to be fair, that's one of the things they patched out was the class calls overlapping. So that should have fixed itself. Because like if you essentially just got a stock break, brought 3 people down to 1 health, and then a meteor immediately dropped, like there's nothing you can do. Those people are just going to die. Or I don't know if the damage immunity from stock break would essentially negate them soaking meteor damage because they're not taking damage, which in turn people would die because they cannot soak. So if that's all been patched out, then I do not have a problem with, at least though that specific mechanic.
Very good. DC, what do you have to say about the commentary that Tim's throwing in there about the encounter?
I like the idea that, there's 6 choices, but every week, like 2 of them are chosen randomly, because otherwise you would just if you could choose every time, it's like Yubi said, you would just figure out like what the easiest ones are, and then you just do that every time. I kind of liked in BWL, for example, like I mentioned earlier, is like the affix was like, one affix was like fixed every week. There was like a weekly affix and then it rotated. And I thought that was kind of fun. And then I guess like one of the nice things about the BWO affix is like you knew the rotation was in a set order. So, if it was red, it was always going to be blue next, and then black, and then browns, and then green. I don't know if that's what it was, but like, for example. So, maybe the same thing will happen with Beatrix, where like you can kind of anticipate like, oh, this week it's going to be this and this. So like, make sure you bring this extra consumable or like whatever. But I like that, you can't just opt out of like the more tricky stuff all the time. I think that's like a good design decision.
I'd like to
like force people to, get friction. Yeah, that's
I'm choking on my jats. I'd like to clarify. I meant that I actually prefer none of that. Like I just like the boss fight being what it is, rather than introducible variables by player choice or by rotation. I'd like it when it's just straight 180 the same each week. But that's a personal choice of mine. And if I was forced to pick, I would pick rotational rather than giving us the choice, because then we ruin it for ourselves every week. But there's pros and cons to either. I just like showing up to a boss fight and it is what it is, rather than it's different next Wednesday.
The left-hand pass part of the pass half of your brain says no changes, I need static fights so I can fucking high score. And the right side, gamer side of your brain says bring on a bit of fucking change. Would that be the case?
It's not for me. I hate dealing with the guys that do care about it. That's my problem. Like I end up in the same raid team as the super sweaty geeks, and they're like, Green week's the best week to pump, so now I'm not going to do any of my kicks. I fucking hate dealing with that shit.
I'd suspect that Beatrix is not going to be counted in logs and parses due to the nature of the variability and the fact that there's so many ads. That would be my suspicion. So hopefully that will kind of be the case and we won't run into those kind of situations. Because I agree, that is pretty cancer when like you get people that are super giga obsessed with their parse and they just like don't do the mechanics, and then nobody gets to parse because everyone's getting killed.
I'm glad that you raised that point. I should not be criticizing Tim's design choices on the fact that we're a shit community that put up these Warcraft log goals to chase. That's an us problem. The fight is good, and it probably is good that it changes week to week. We're just a horrible community that will ruin it for ourselves. That's a good point.
I agree. I agree. I don't think that they should ever let concerns about people like ideally parsing stop them from being creative.
I agree. KVT, you going to say something?
Yeah, if we still have Tim here, one of the concerns that was brought up when I was watching Jordy is, so for the empowered commanders on this fight, is that different from EU servers to US servers to Oceanic servers, or are those all on the same timer, where it's going to be these same 2 empowered for every regional server base?
No, I believe EU has different empowereds this week than NA does.
There you go. Interesting.
That was like a complaint in the world first race,
Yeah, I could see that being a problem, I see.
EU got these two.
Yeah. We got the harder affixes. What's going on? Yeah. Tim is saying stock break KPT is on a very precise timing cadence, so folks will be able to prep their heals. So I'm presuming, obviously, we just don't know what the timer is, and DBM will eventually go 40 seconds until the next stock break or whatever.
Wait a minute.
What?
He's saying it's based off how many weeks it's been since your server has been released. So it's consistent to your server and region. So it's not static for everyone worldwide or something? Is that what he's saying?
So EU and NA have different empowered generals this week.
Oh, I thought he was saying the fucking timer for stock break. And I'm like, that is truly crazy.
No, you fucking weirdo.
That's a good idea. Fuck us up. Start making mechanics server unique, and then a week or a builders are in shambles.
The stock break timer is calculated by the current the whoever's starting the next Dodgers games, their current ERA divided by the current percentage of tariffs on China, multiplied by how many points per game LeBron James is averaging. That's how they do it. Yeah.
That would kind of be hilarious to see any mechanic in that fashion.
Arcos is off to bed. He wants to say, I'd love to chat, but it's too late. Tim Jones, great work on the raid. Really interesting and varied fight mechanics. It feels like Council and Lillian Voss are as tightly tuned as they can be. Definitely possible, but only with nearly no mistakes and no bad luck RNG. It's been really fun progressing through it. Oh, doesn't that hit you in the warm and fuzzies, Yubi?
I'm eating, but yes, I can't believe Arcos can be nice, but it seems to be only to devs when they're here in person, and then he's a prick.
Yeah, I know. him and DC Green cut from the same ilk. DC gets very nice when Tim's in the room. DC.
Arcos will suck the toes that are present, that's for sure.
Oh my goodness, all the toe sucking. Here's another read from Tim. Sorry guys, I'll just keep weaving in what Tim is. Thank you so much, Tim. Everyone say thank you to Tim for being so kind to give us this very thoughtful commentary on the making of the fight. Previous comment though, Tim says, I respect consistent boss fights. Sometimes I like to lean into fantasy though, where we embrace the chaotic nature of fighting a general and her collective generals and armies. Her troop summon wave comps are random too, but they don't repeat. Also, her class calls don't repeat most of the time. Chaos was part of this fight's design. Definitely things we want to massage out with making sure things don't overlap in too much of a punishing manner. Thank you, Arcos. Oh, I'm here. I'm ready to ship Tim and Arcos, quite frankly. They're fucking good on you, boys. A lot of love in the chat. I love to see it. There you go. Interesting notes, yeah, KPT?
Yeah, no, that's good to know.
I've got a comment.
Please do.
So I would say that like I'll dial back some of my balancing criticisms if you are trying to make a fight that is like this, that is trying to kind of throw a lot of chaotic things. I could see how that would be like probably more challenging to balance than other fights. My comment would be that maybe don't make it the second boss. Like maybe what I've heard is like bosses 3 through 5, like you can kind of pick them in an order. I don't know if they're linear, right? They're like in a big field. So I've heard that you can kind of pick them in a unsequential order. Maybe that would have been a better area for Beatrix to be in, is like she's like one of the 3 next bosses, and so if you get like totally cock blocked by her, you can just go to a different boss and try your luck there. Maybe that would have been better, because as it stands, like the spirit of the fight seems to have made the balancing very difficult, and then like her position in the raid I think exacerbated those issues because it became like a wall.
You raise a great it's a great point you'd raise there, DC, because obviously the majority of the conversation around Beatrix outside of the difficulty has been like, why is this boss number 2? Like if this weren't boss number 2, this would be a lot easier to swallow. Tim acknowledges in chat, look, she could have been a great boss number 5, I think, with her tuning for sure. So Tim, I think it is fair to say at this juncture, and DC Green, like, you know, I think you're justified. You don't have to walk back your criticism, because you were quite, you know, what's the right word, the way to put it? Yesterday in the Discord, I think you were justifiably...
I'm trying to be balanced.
Yeah, you were justifiably angry with the classic team for a variety of reasons. Some I agreed with, some I disagreed with. But the point about this being boss number 2, I think, is something I agree with. I think the anger and the frustration is a bit justified as to we are all sitting around mystified as to why the fuck was this, you know, chosen to be boss number 2. So Tim, I know, mate, you're a great fucking bloke. You'll be okay with me saying this, sort of saying, and I don't mean this in a prickish way, but as a genuine question, what were you guys thinking with electing Beatrix to be boss number 2? And I don't mean in the, like, you know, Apu yelling at Principal Skinner about Jurassic Park, what were you thinking? I mean more like, genuinely, what was the thought process behind, let's make this one number 2? Was that your call or someone else's call? Like, it is interesting that the roadblock was number 2 and not, like you say, number 5. So I don't know if you can comment on that, Tim. It might be an unfair question. You can tell me to go fuck myself if that's the case, but that is what I would throw out there. Is I think we're all kind of sitting here going, that's a little bit of a head scratching decision, that one, in terms of the order that these bosses were placed. So I think that's a fair way to put it. I don't think I'm being particularly cuntish in the way I've said that. What do you guys think?
No, I get what you mean. Like,
Yeah, I'd like to know.
I would just assume it must be the geography of the raid, but Arcos is saying that maybe she would have been boss 5 with the water skip. I got no clue what the water skip would be.
So yeah, the water skip was essentially like when guilds got hyper annoyed with Beatrix, they found a way how to quote unquote skip her and just move on to the other bosses.
Yeah, like jump off the cliff into the ocean and swim around the gate or whatever, basically.
Yeah. Which, again, not intended, but no, I would have liked to see her be like a boss 4.
Fair
but
enough.
yes, with like how the raid works and how the progression of the raid is with her, like the way her fight is designed, I guess you could have put it in like a room inside a building with, spoiler alert, you zone into the old Scarlet Monastery for the last 3 bosses of the fight. So it's like I guess you'd have to be boss 4. So like a hard wall midway through the raid.
Her being in that open area of New Avalon, like, it makes a lot of sense. So I can see that it was like, oh, well, this makes the most sense, like, logistically to put her here, not based on like the linear progression of the bosses, but based on the zone that we have and like what we've designed. Like, it makes the most sense that you're fighting her like in the courtyard of Avalon. There's enough room for all her like garrison to surround you and stuff, and it looks really cool and like really thematic.
Everyone in chat is praying that Tim tells me to go fuck myself, which would be fantastic. I want, when all of this is done, when we wrap up Countdown and Classics coming to a close, I want a Grenz and I want Tim on a fucking completely uncensored pod. Not that they could ever do it. And I really want everything out on the table of the like, Josh, I've always wanted to tell you you're a fucking asshole because of that time you said this, or you were so unfair to us on this point or this episode. I'd fucking love it as like a fun little chat. But anyway, guys, let's move on to boss number 3, which is... Sorry, go DC, go.
Okay, so I just want to add some context about like where I was coming from earlier. So like, I don't know how game dev works, right? And like, I don't know like what Blizzard's, process is or like what resources they have available. So like when I see like a boss like Beatrix and I just see it, like it looks unbalanced, like it brings up all like the resentment that I have for Blizzard, that it's like, you guys have so much resources and it feels like you don't put any into like assuring that the players that are gonna like take you at your word and like, sacrifice this one day to be at like the spear's tip, as someone mentioned before, and do the content, and it's like, there it is, you're like, you just can't fucking do it because it looks like it's not ready. But knowing that like the spirit of the design was for it to be like a little bit more chaotic, and then that would in turn like make it a little bit more difficult to tune properly, like that does like take a lot of the edge off of my grievances. And Tim, I don't know if this is anything that you guys like throw around, but like, goddamn, I think that like you would get so much goodwill from the community if you guys did like a kind of behind the scenes, like after the raid's been out for a week, and like talk about the different bosses and like what your design intents were behind them and like what you wanted to achieve and like what you learned. And you don't have to like spill the beans or like out all your secrets, but like something like that, I think like the community would really love to see, like the ideas that went into the new raid and like your hits and your misses and things like that. And I think it would do a lot to like assuage certain gripes people may have cultivated, like myself.
Very good. The good news is we got the result we were looking for, so thank you for that, Tim. I won't read out the whole response just in case, but I will say we got what we wanted. Tim also says, I think I may have gone a bit too extra on how demanding I made her. Hopefully dialing back the disruptive spells of her ads helped make her feel more like a boss too. But yeah, it was definitely geographically oriented. It was definitely a geographically oriented decision. Her lieutenants needed a specific place to live, and she needed lots of room for her army to exist within, so that that boss 2 area seemed best. So I guess that's a decent explanation as to my question of why. What was the thinking into making this one number 2? So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Tim, for that. These are the interactions with the classic team we need. This is what we missed. I love you, Tim. Thank you, mate, for that. Boss number 3, boys. We'll try and zoom through them, but we're doing so well. I mean, only if people have fucking got places to be. Does anyone want to relieve KPT of his duties, or do we throw it back to him for another phenomenal fucking description of boss number 3?
He's crushing it.
He's crushing it. He's absolutely crushing it.
It'll be impressive from here because the information gets pretty scuffed.
Yes, it does.
Unless you've watched a lot of streams, you can't even find a guide on this shit.
It sounds like KPT he's on the classic team at this point.
It's we
got him.
That allows
we got him, boys.
Jordy on Twitch.
Sorry, what'd you say, mate?
Oh no, I just said I work at a job that allows me to watch Jordy on Twitch. So
very good. I must say, shout out to Jordy. Obviously, he was on the show last episode. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and turned on his Race to World first stream, which was a really fun watch. So thank you again, Jordy, for putting that on. I'm sure a lot of people watched it and enjoyed it. You did a great job. Go for it, KPT.
Okay, so yeah, Solastraza. It's a dragon fight. Essentially, like you run off from Beatrix, you fight more trash, which I will abstain from complaining about. And then you've essentially found like this broken down castle that you run into, and it's just essentially a big circle with one entrance on one side. You engage the dragon. Normally, there's a bunch of mechanics. So first mechanic is every so often, I think it might be every 30%, she flies up and she will target one person within the raid and then come back down and slam the ground on that person. When she does that, that creates ads that then in turn have to be tanked throughout the room. So you really just cluster those up, cleave them on top of her. Next mechanic that she does is when she does slam down, then it does start like raining down. I'm trying to think of a mechanic within Classic. If you all remember, it's the dragon from Sunken Temple that had like the acid rain. It essentially looks like, Aranicus. It looks like that, but it just essentially dribbles down like fire from the sky that you do not want to stand in. One of the other mechanics, I forget the name, is a Blistering Vent, where she targets a singular person within the raid. This person gets a giant circle around them, and they have to run ideally to one of the outskirts of the circle, in turn which then she will target them and breathe fire, which of course they want to run out of, and that will leave a permanent like fire patch throughout the raid. I want to say those are all of the mechanics, but the catch-22 is every time you burn her down from 100 down to 0, she will fly up into the air and come down as like a different color. So she starts out red, flies up, burn her from 100 to 0, comes back down green. You burn her back down from 100 back down to 0. She flies back up, and I believe she comes down white. Yeah, like white and purple. And essentially, like with these, when she targets the one person and breathes fire at them, it is permanent throughout the raid. So that's kind of the hard, quote unquote, like hard or soft enrage timer, is you're going to run out of space throughout the raid if you just don't kill her fast enough, because that permanent fire patch that is left throughout her ability, you're not just going to have enough room to drop it, or have enough room to avoid the raining fire mechanics throughout the fight.
Zim, how did you guys go with this one?
We wiped, let's see, I think 7 or 8 times on this one before we got it. And the hardest part for us was dealing with, there's a tank swap, and then those ads is the 3 whelps that come down, and we tried cleaving them all together, but as soon as one died, if one died before the others, they basically exploded all of them and did massive raid damage. So the way we handled that is we had 3 tanks, and we had one tank grab 2 or 1 of the ads and drag them to the other side of the room, and then cleave down the other one with the ad.
All right.
I thought this fight was honestly pretty cool visually, and I like having shit on the ground sucks, but as a tank, I thought it was like I had to be on my toes and I'd be ready to pick up ads and whatever. And one of our tanks died, so we ended up just 2 tanking it anyways, and that made it even more interesting.
DC, what were your thoughts on this one?
I don't think I had I think I was just affirming something else that got said. Oh no, I was saying that when he was describing the fire, and not even a broom. I was just saying like, oh, it's like a soft enrage, which I like soft enrage mechanics. I think they're kind of neat because you'll get those clutch moments where like everything is on fire and shit's going crazy, and you still manage to like kite it out, and like 2 people are alive or whatever, and you get it. Like it allows for fights like that, where as opposed to like hard enrages where you normally just get like bopped and
Right.
everyone dies.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
So that, I was just saying like, oh, it's a soft enrage earlier. I actually haven't done the fight or seen it, so I don't really have.
So Catch 22 Green, she also has a hard enraged.
Oh.
Oh, so you don't have to choose between soft
Okay.
or hard. You can have both.
Oh yeah.
Correct.
Very good.
Just like we like it.
Very good. These jokes write themselves, Yubi. What am I to do here?
You just sit and listen.
I know.
Let us make the content.
I know.
Mild tangent, bit ignoring the mechanics. I like that they've pulled an asset from Wrath.
Oh,
Bit of a can of worms. Different day to talk about that and what that could mean. But it's just cool to see those little things. I don't know if they've been doing it with a bunch of items, but you know,
They did it with tier 6 for warriors, I think, for plate.
Yeah, Proto Drakes look cool, and it's just silly to not go and use what's in your library that's in a folder on the computer that you're building the game from. So interesting.
I think it's cool as well. Also, in like we know that they have like limited access to the asset and art development team. So I think that the fact that they've been able to like pull this raid together and make it look so cool, even though a lot of it is reused assets, is like a feather in their hat for sure.
When you say they've got a limited access to the art, like what do you mean by that in terms of what they've been?
They said that when they did the Molten
or?
Core boss and it was just a big meatball. Remember, they were
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
well, the thing is like we don't have access to the art
Right.
team and the asset team because like we're still
Yeah.
kind of like doing proof of concept."
Well,
And
that's-
so I assume that it's the same case with you saw it in Karazhan. Like Karazhan doesn't really have. There was like a couple things in Karazhan that were new, and like the one that comes off the top of my head is like the little like cluster of red eyes
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are, like,
yeah.
in the shadows. But that's not exactly a mob, so like
Right.
or something that probably took like a lot of design work. So it seems like that they when it comes to like that's the reason that like tier 4, it's a lot of it like for rogues, for example, it's like a reskin like PvP set, and for warriors it's like a recolored tier
Yeah.
6 from Black Temple. So I think that like for the constraints that they have, they're still managing to make the Scarlet Enclave like feel unique and feel new.
It was just
Even
the way you said it in terms of them having limited access to the art library. Like you're right in terms of new shit. Yes, they don't have I don't think they have access to art designers and stuff that can just conjure up some
that's
new
what I
shit.
mean.
Yeah. But my interpretation in terms of them talking about that has always been, I think they pretty much have unfettered access to use pretty much anything from vanilla TBC or Wrath. Like you be saying, oh, this is a Wrath model. Like I think anything that's not like high def Kata, not high def, but you know what I mean, like Kata model onwards, that if it's Wrath or before, I think they have access to it and could throw it in SOD, would be my presumption.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like it.
Yeah. Very good. So
I don't want to go back to Islands of Northern anyway, so put that shit in Azeroth. I'm fine with it.
So thumbs up, thumbs down this one. What are we thinking?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like when watching the fight, I tried to like recall, like has in Classic, I can't recall a fight like where they actually use the environment as a part of the fight, like having to specifically drop things in a certain place within the room, or else you're just going to wipe. And I can't think of a fight that they did that in Classic. Like, of course they did, I believe, in like TBC and Wrath, but in Classic, I don't believe there's like an environmental fight.
Yeah,
I wish Arcos was still here.
From watching a kill VOD on YouTube, I was looking at that, and it did, at least to me, it's like, this looks like a Wrath fight, like just in how it plays out, and drop the doo-doo in the bad spot and all that kind of shit. Yeah, you haven't. I mean, we don't really get that in vanilla.
It's DC. Did I catch you saying you wish Arcos was here?
Yeah, to comment on like the using the environment as part of
Yeah.
the fight, I wish it was here because I was watching him do the 5th boss, and so I'll comment on it when we get to it, and I hope Tim is still here because I want to like have this theory confirmed or denied. But I was
He's here.
making some
Tim's here.
strategy suggestions to Arcos based on like the geography of like where they were fighting the boss, and so I'd like to hear if there's any
Fucking
any bearing to that idea that I had. So hopefully Tim will be able to elaborate.
Mate,
But that's not to the boss.
of course Tim's still fucking here. This is his fucking Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? He's fucking loving every second of this, I'm sure. But no, it's funny you say the Arcos thing because I am trying to. Arcos has obviously already said he'll do it because he's a fucking good bloke. But I'll get a one-on-one with him on all this and plug that into this episode as well on top of this conversation. So another 9-hour pod coming in for you all. But yeah, I think it would be shit of me to not include Arcos's take on all of this, given that he's, you know, again, for the third time to invoke the term at the tip of the spear, so to speak, in terms of raiding guilds and doing all this shit. So we need to hear what his take is. Now, on that, let's move on to boss number 4. What do we got, KPT? Is this Beastmaster or is that
question.
5?
No, it's Beastmaster. Like, from everything that I have seen, like, it seems just like a simple tank and spank, but I'm sure that's not true. So I may defer to someone else for Beastmaster.
All right, who wants to step up to the plate? DC, Zim, who wants this?
I didn't watch any streams, and when you try to YouTube it, it just tries to tell you what runes to take on your Beastmaster Hunter in day 2. So, like, we're right into the murky weeds of, like, were you there or you don't know?
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Wait,
Tim,
are we talking about the Beastmaster? Because that's who I thought 5th boss was.
we're talking. No, yeah, I thought it was the 5th, but apparently it's the 4th. Is that? I don't mean fucking.
It's
either
the
or.
4th. I mean, you're 3 and 4 or I guess there's some variability in there.
He hasn't 3. I thought 3, 4, and 5 were all interchangeable.
They
you
are.
entered,
Oh, okay.
Scarlet.
All right.
So we did Beastmaster, and yeah, it was a fairly simple fight. There, basically, you have the Beastmaster, and then you have his bear pet, and they both cleave. They have to face away from each other, and if you're standing in front of them, you get a debuff that's different for each one. So you had to, have your 2 tanks tank them away from each other, and then randomly, well, not randomly, I'm sure it's timed. The bear will send out like a wave of something on the floor, and it basically one-shots you if you're caught in it.
It's like a zigzag of explosions.
Exactly, yeah.
It looks pretty cool.
It is a really cool animation, and it's really noticeable.
Yeah, clearly telegraphed. It's nice.
Yeah. And then we were getting the Beastmaster was he has a pretty massive cleave as well. But other than that, like, it's just a tank swap deal they have to worry about, and then avoid the waves for the most part, if I remember correctly.
Very good.
Definitely not as elaborate as KPT, but
No, you smashed it, mate. I'm just going to weave in this comment from Tim, just on what we were talking about earlier, DC. Tim says the SOD team actually does have an artist now, but we didn't get that artist until about halfway through development, which I don't know.
I'm sure they did the Enclave splash art and then the Emerald Dragon splash art, right? Because those look cool.
He says the building and adjustment of this original space from Tyr's hand in Wrath to how it looks now is mostly our amazing senior encounter designers, so props to Jay and Rowan for transforming the space into something unique with our existing assets. So absolutely props to the boys. So back to Beastmaster. Did we have fun with it? Yes, no, maybe.
We had fun with it, just because this was getting towards the end of our night, and we were just kind of slap happy a little bit. But we goofed on a few pulls, just trying to figure it out, and then we found out about the green explosions and whatnot, and we had a lot of fun learning the fight. And then ultimately, we were like, okay, let's everybody lock in and get into it, and it was an easier fight. I mean, it was definitely a lot easier than Beatrix.
It must have been a huge weight off the shoulders, sort of getting past Beatrix and seeing 3, 4, 5 being the way they were. Yeah, Zim?
Yeah, I mean, so we had heard that by the time we got in there, we heard that there was maybe 1 or 2 guilds that had gotten Beatrix down when we had started, and we were like, oh, okay, so that's the wall. And then we heard like, oh yeah, the other bosses are a lot easier. And then we wiped more on boss 3, the dragon, than any other boss in there so far. And so we're like, okay, maybe that was a little skewed. But I mean, overall, like, I thought Beastmaster was a fun fight. The visuals on it, again, are pretty stunning.
Good stuff. We're now entering the zone where I'm in the dark because I actually don't know what bosses 5 through 8 are. So we might sort of blanket everything.
Wait, can I?
Yeah, go, man.
I want to ask a question about Beastmaster if Tim is listening. Okay, so like I was watching Arcos do it, right? And like their group was spending a lot of time trial and erroring, like being able to LOS the stacking debuff, because like the debuffs that they put on you, they take every second and then they stack, and it's like if you get it, and it looked like you couldn't do the fight without getting like both of the bear's aura and the Beastmaster's aura on you. So they were spending like a lot of time trial and erroring, like where can we tank the bear to LOS it, and because I don't think they were ready to just do like a straight up like tank swap yet or whatever. So anyways, I started trying to think creatively, because I'm like, well, these look like more like retail raids where they want you to kind of like think outside the box, and they're like a little bit more creative and they're a little bit more wacky. And in the area that you're fighting the Beastmaster, there's a stable. So I was thinking like, dude, you tank the bear in the stable, and that's what gives you LOS on the debuff. And I'm like, that makes so much sense, because this guy's a hunter, and so you put his pet in the stable, and then that makes it like way easier. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't, encourage me and try my idea. So I don't know if that happened, but if Tim's here and is willing to elaborate, is there any trick, or is it like you literally just kind of tank them far apart?
I could tell you what we did and how we got it. We found kind of two little things. So for the bear's green explosion and whatnot, the little gate there next to the stable, we had all of our range stack on it. And when the bear sent out his explosion, it went straight under it and didn't hit the raid if they were standing on the gate.
That's cool.
And then, so we did that. But what did kill us is that I forgot one mechanic that is why we didn't use that strat anymore, is that the Beastmaster has a trap launcher.
Oh, yeah. So he'll launch it like all onto where
so when your entire range stacks there, it's like, oh, okay, another one-shot mechanic, sweet. But you can get on top of the stable, just saying.
I've seen, I saw Arcos' team trying to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to think of like crazy outside the box stuff, and I'm like, dude, for sure. I'm like, you tank him in the stable, and that's like the gimmick.
Arcos' team is still shitty that they didn't think of the fucking reflector on Beatrix, so they're trying to cheese in their own ways on other bosses. Very good. Well, Tim might be quiet on that one. I don't know if he's going to tell you how to do the boss, but he might say something.
Yeah, there's no way in hell that he's.
Yeah,
they're developers.
He's
they
like,
want you to figure it out. That's the whole reason why they have it. Figured out.
DC wants a personalized.
This is DC Green's hot Scarlet Enclave tip: is tank the bear in the stables. I bet you it works.
DC wants a personalized how to do the raid guide from Tim. So yeah. All right, guys. Look, let's blanket everything towards the end because I'm running out of energy and I think everyone's getting a bit tired because we're going on over 3.5 hours now. And I said to you guys, this would be an hour. So, you guys have been brilliant. Let's just talk about everything towards the end. Like I said, I don't even know what fucking happens at the end. I don't know what bosses 5, 6, 7, and 8 are. I think someone mentioned the name of the last boss before. KBT said it, and I was like, I don't even know who the fuck that is. How does the end of the raid go, KBT? You happy with it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So after, Mason, which essentially is like a ship fight, launches cannonballs, they explode, whatever. Then you zone into the Scarlet Monastery. And within the Scarlet Monastery, you fight the Reborn Council, which essentially is going to be like essentially the Scarlet Champions within like the end bosses in the Scarlet Crusade, or Scarlet Monastery, re-resurrected. So essentially like the Scarlet Monastery pre all the different zones. So you fight the Reborn Council, which is like Herod and 2 others. That fight seems to be insanely tuned, where it's a very, very finite DPS check, and you really can't lose anyone, or else you're not gonna make the enrage timer. And it has a bunch of crazy mechanics. Like there's
Arcanist Stone one of them?
I believe so. Yeah, the mage.
Okay. Is the end of the like graveyard guy one then? I assume Mograine and Chapeau are not there, right?
Mograine is there.
White Man. Oh, Mograine's there. Okay, White Man's absent.
Yeah, but let me look.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Doan, Herod, Vashus, and Herod. All right, there's 2 Herods. So yeah, it's Herod, Vashus, and Doran. Doan.
Doan.
The 3. Yeah, the 3. But yeah, like there's crazy fire tornadoes that spawn because it takes place in Herod's room. So yeah, in that fight, there's like crazy fire tornadoes that spawn all around the room that are all encompassing. The mage throws like lava that expands in the middle of the room, so everyone has to circumnavigate themselves outside while still DPSing bosses. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, so Tim's saying it's Interrogator Vicious from the graveyard, Doan from the library, and Herod from the armory. And DC, you got your answer to your question. He goes, it's a highly mobile boss. The path's everywhere. There's going to be a bunch of places that feel cool and strategic to fight him in. The goal was just to have them fought apart. There's nothing special about the stable. It's a somewhat similar fight to Shannox from Firelands in that respect. Sorry, KBT, you were saying?
Oh, no. Then, yeah, after... you down the council fight, then you go fight Lillian Voss. That's not a fight that I'm not too familiar with, just because it happened when I got busy at work. But yeah, you go fight Lillian Voss within the Scarlet Monastery. If anyone else knows about it, feel free to chirp in.
Does anyone know much about Lillian Voss?
Haven't got there yet.
No, not there
haven't
yet.
got there yet.
Yeah, fair enough. That's okay. It's all, we don't know this stuff. It's all new. All good.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Yeah, and then you fight Calderon, who is the wielder of the Ashbringer. So yeah, like with that fight the minimal stuff that I have seen from like the B Tribe video that they gave to Jordy, like he has an insane amount of health. There's one mechanic essentially where it's like a blinding light. You have to turn away from it, or else I believe it blinds you and you're immobile. You can't heal. When I did watch the B Tribe video, like they had everyone DPSing because there's a point where he like essentially throws out Ashbringer, and Ashbringer has a cast bar of 40 seconds, which I'm assuming if it reaches the full cast of 40 seconds and you don't kill it, it wipes the raid. And of course, me being me, I did the math. It has 5 million health, which equates to roughly everyone in the raid, all 20 raiders, doing 6.2k or 6.25k or 1,000 DPS in order to burn it down from 40 to 0 seconds. So there's hard DPS checks. From when I saw the boss hits like a truck, he spawns crazy AoE that you have to avoid. Yeah, the last boss is a lot.
He has like ads that sacrifice themselves to him. I don't know what it does. I think it just heals him. I watched Simon Eyes do one attempt on it. And they were like, well, you're still in the cathedral with them, because it looks like the further the fight goes, the environment changes. Because if you saw the screenshot where that got posted on Wowhead of B-Tribe beating him, they're like in a field and then they're surrounded by like walls of fire. So it sounds like the environment changes, which is pretty neat. But while they're in the cathedral, like for the first phase, after he did the blinding light, these like clerics would run out and they start casting something for like 10 seconds about. And it looks like you have to kill them, or else he either gets like an enrage buff from it, or he just gets like generally empowered, or he gets healed. I'm not sure.
It's a crazy fight.
It looks really involved. It looks like a proper like final boss, and like it. I don't know if like that place that they're in is in like the basement of the cathedral. Like one thing that I think was like really cool is that they did just kind of take like the old assets from SM, but then they like tweaked with the lighting and stuff, and it looks totally different in a way. And it looks so appropriate that you're in this like, I don't know if it's like an abandoned or like defunct cathedral that's part of like the Scarlet Enclave, that that there's weird stuff going on there with the Ashbringer, which who knows what's going on with that. It might be connected to like demons and Balnazar and stuff. So it all looks very like thematically like eerie and spooky, and looks like it's gonna be fun to like be in there.
You raise a good point, DC Green, with Tim going, it was an interesting decision to cut old Sally Whitemane out of this one, and I'm sure, like you say, it must have been a tough decision for them as well. Were you a bit bummed out to see her not being a part of it?
Well, this is the first that I'm hearing about it. I wasn't sure, so like I was just curious that like I could see that like you don't want to like run into the trope of like having Whitemane and Mograine in the same fight again, because like you probably expect them to like do a resurrection thing. So I can understand like from a creativity perspective, you're like, let's not have her so that we don't like get lazy and just do that thing that we've done again, because like we know like everyone will love it, like so, even if it would be like kind of boring. Like I'm sure that for the first time it would have a lot of novelty with players. So I could imagine that it's like that's like the reason is like Whitemane and Mograine have had their fight before, so like let's not put them together again. Maybe that's the one we cut.
If Wymane's not technically dead, I mean, fucking, what do I know? But I would have loved, like, if anything, if you're not going to put her in the raid as a boss, have a quick bit of
Wasn't she in?
What?
Well, if they're there, I assume none of them are really dead, right? So I wasn't making that observation because I thought she was like dead or not dead, or I just
Have a bit of.
I'm fairly certain they come back in Wrath, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Have a bit of RP with her, like, doing the proverbial licking of the wounds and walking back into the Enclave after getting her ass kicked from the monastery at the start of the raid. I don't know. But let me say, guys, look, there is a lot to be learned from the end of the raid. It's still, like you said, only a few guilds have cleared it. We're very much in the dark on a lot of what's happening here. But I will say, just hearing you guys kind of gush about this raid in general and, about, the cool stuff that lies in wait towards the back half of it too. Like Ubiquitous kind of touched on earlier, I was sitting here just thinking, like, can we all agree? I mean this not to sort of put you in the corner, but to genuinely ask, are we all in agreement or not? That no PTR was clearly the right decision for this, because I hammered the classic, not the classic team. I've hammered WoW in the past, going like, look, I get it. I understand the business side of it, where you have tens of thousands of fucking hungry gamers who will test your game for free around the world, and what an amazing resource to be able to tap into. But I've always looked at, like I said, at Final Fantasy and been like, they don't do PTRs. Everything that comes out is unseen and this amazing experience for the players to just discover on their own. Every new expansion, there's no PTR. They just do the thing and it's fucking brilliant. And WoW's always done the reverse model where it's like, no, we give you everything for testing. And the argument's always been, we literally have to test this. If we don't test this shit with the players, it'll just be broken forever, blah, blah, blah. But I really am glad, hiccups notwithstanding, that we got this Scarlet Enclave without PTR testing. That, like, it does sound like you guys are kind of the proverbial kids in the candy store again, running around and seeing all this stuff, and it means a lot to you as WoW gamers for so many years to be thrown into this environment and just have fun in the playground. Was it the right call to not do a PTR?
Yeah, I'd say so.
But tuning aside, was there anything wrong with it? Were there bugs? Did the boss fall through the floor or anything?
No.
I didn't
people
see,
skipping the second boss.
Yeah, I didn't actually see, unless we're doing things and we don't know because there wasn't a PTR, but like, unless we don't know that something's a bug, but I haven't seen much complaints about that. It's just been hard, and I mean, that's probably the biggest props. Like, you took away the PTR, and this might be the first raid that doesn't have a bug, maybe, upon release, and it didn't have a PTR. So
yeah, nothing horrible has happened.
I think it's the move, as the youth would say, perhaps. I think it outweighs the negatives would have normally been, it turns out that this isn't working on its correct cooldown and it's a bug. But like, if you don't even get that, I don't really see how there's a leg to stand on to say that a PTR would be better.
No, good stuff. KBT, you agree?
Yeah, like this is going to sound super retail brained of me. The only thing that they possibly could do for a PTR is like essentially do what retail does, like open bosses on specific dates that you announce for like 40 minutes. So you give guilds an idea of how the fight works and make sure that there isn't any game breaking bugs or tuning bugs within the fight. And that way it kind of is a win-win for everyone. Kind of it keeps the mystery of the fight. Not entirely, but somewhat. And still allows people to make sure that there isn't going to be things that we have ran into. But I mean, all in all, without having a PTR, this has been, I mean, a massive win for Blizzard in their first classic raid they have released.
I think it's definitely got some interest, because I was one of those Andes that came back. I logged on my Toon for the first time in like 6 months, and I went and did those fucking dragons in the portal. And there was a suspiciously large amount of people that were guildless in Molten Core gear. So I think it might have brought players back with
Right.
all the hype around it, because it was an anomaly. I'm talking like half my raid were just guildless tier 1 enjoyers, and it's like there's no way they just happen to be here on the same day I've come back in my Blackwing Lair shit that I was still wearing.
DC, I'll let you kick off the conclusion of this podcast, and just to piggyback off of KPT's point, I'll posit to you: is this I know we kind of touched on it, but is this Scarlet Enclave raid from you one of the most how do I put this? Someone who's really put the classic team's feet to the flames where you felt they've deserved it. Has this Scarlet Enclave raid been a win, a huge win for the classic team? And what has it done for you as we move forward potentially into Classic Plus territory later down the track?
I think that I feel like I shouldn't even have to answer this. Like, it's obvious. Like, I think that they've done like an amazing job. The raid looks fantastic. The bosses are all like unique and creative. They're putting like their retail design
I'll help you
chops to
out.
the test by covering it in like
Let me jump in.
classic
Let me
skins,
jump
so
in. Let me
it
jump in.
all
I'll help
feels
you
old
out.
school.
I'll help you out because you have said all this, and it's fair to say I've kind of said this for the last 3 hours, Josh. I love this raid. That's great. But do you enjoy it enough to be able to sit down and go, you know what, classic team, W for you?
Yeah, of course. And also, when I said that I thought the answer was obvious, I didn't just mean like me within the context of this podcast. I feel like anybody with 2 eyes and a brain that looks at SOD right now and looks at the Scarlet Enclave will be like, this is hype as fuck. I need to play this. I think that that's obvious. I think it's objective.
So, having seen this and seeing what they're capable of, how does this make you feel about a potential Classic Plus product?
I still think that's like a tricky one because it's like how much of like are they going to strip things away from SOD or are they going to like build on SOD? Because I like SOD a lot, so I would have to see on kind of like what their like holistic approach is before I could like ever I would never want to speculate or say anything too definitive about something that is still so in the ether.
Fair enough. Does anyone else want to touch that? Fucking with a 10-foot pole, how does this? I mean, you'd be a great one to take us out on this one. How does this make you feel about Classic Plus?
I've always been pretty optimistic, but I'm kind of sitting here watching these streams and stuff in like I don't know, like delirium of just like holy fuck, this is practically what we would just need going forward. Obviously with a reset, well, like blah, 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 reset, fresh launch, whatever. But like, there's been a lot of question marks. Can they do this? Can they do that? Well, it's like, here you go. Here is an entirely newly built area, on the legs of Tier's Hand with new bosses. Like, everything is new and it works fucking better than any other raid that we've been doing for 20 years. And it's fun. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like they got to the last day of their probation for Classic Plus, and then they've smashed it out of the park real fucking far. And I'm more optimistic than ever about what could happen next.
Very good. All right, guys, look, we'll wind it up there. This has been a fucking long one. I can hear us all dying in the ass. You guys have been phenomenal. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time and your evenings or your mornings. I appreciate you all. We'll say our goodbyes and show the love. John, mate, thank you so much for chiming in with the guest appearance off the top ropes. Hope you have a lovely night.
You as well.
Thank you. KBT, mates, I know you're chatting away feverishly in Twitch chat saying, Josh, don't end the stream. I've got so much to say. Mate, you're an all-star in this one. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Mate, any shout-outs? Said, what's the guild you with?
Oh, God, I don't even remember the name. So we are Riddles in the Dark on Crusader Strike, of course, in U.S.
Can I say, Yubi, that's the classic, like, you go like, oh, fuck, I hooked up with someone last night. Oh, who was she? Oh, you wouldn't know her. I don't want to say. Oh no! All right, very good, KVT. Zim, mate, thank you so much. Much love for your guilds.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with Zug dealers now, so
Very good.
it's looking pretty good.
That's a great name.
Very good. Very good. Hiraeth, mate, thank you so much for listening in. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'm stuck here dog sitting alone, so it's nice to hear people talking. On occasion, I'll forget that I'm actually listening to this live. I think I'm listening to the podcast on my phone, and I get startled when my name's said.
No, it's more fun live. Everyone
Yep,
at home,
exactly.
everyone at home, fucking listen in live and get involved. These guys, they carry this fucking show. So, all of you fuckers at home that just listen to the post production, get in live, you buffheads. DC Green, mate. I'll leave. Actually, no. Fuck you. I'll get Yubi done, and I'll leave the best till last. Yeah, actually, no. Fuck that. I'll do Yubi last. DC Green. All right. You're both the best. You're both the best till last.
Yeah,
DC.
That feels better. Yes.
Mate, it's always just such a fucking delight. I know you were a bit shy of jumping in today because you sort of haven't done, all of the raid, or you don't feel like you're fully abreast of it, but you were fantastic. Once again, I think you and I ticked the box and got in a yelling match, but like I say, I'm not saying this to smooth anything over, because I don't believe there's anything to smooth over. I fucking love you. You were the best, mate. Thank you so much.
Hey, well, I just want to say that, like, when I come on here, I get to talk with a lot of really intelligent and articulate people about this game, and it's difficult to argue with you guys because, like, we're talking about, like, so many things and, like, we're getting a lot of stuff. So, it's all in the spirit of, like, just hanging out and having a chat. So I'm always having a good time, and I really appreciate being here. And if I can, just really quick, I want to shout out one viewer who just like chats me up on my character sometimes. His name is Snake Person. He's a rogue on Crusader Strike, and he'll just like whisper me from time to time and just say like, "Hey, I listened to you on the pod, and like I liked some of the stuff you were saying and stuff." So I hooked him up with some Righteous Orbs a couple weeks ago. So, it benefits anybody that wants to like message me and just say hi. Like, I like that kind of stuff. So feel free to.
You love to see it.
Shout out to Snake Person. He's real cool.
Good on you, Snake Person. No, I love to see it. I always love when listeners reach out to people in game. More often than not, you'll find that many of the guests actually are carrying the same handles on the show, the in game. So, if you want to whisper DC Green and tell him you appreciate him on the pod, reach out to DC Green Alliance side on Crusader Strike in SOD, and he loves to hear from you all. But
or argue with me. I don't.
Or argue with him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, tell me I'm wrong.
Look, there's honestly,
Hash it out.
we do it because we love to talk about it. You're right sometimes. I'm right sometimes. Like, it's a back and forth, and we do it because, as I'll throw it to Yubi and say this much, Yubi knows what the drill, mate. It's literally it's the chat with the mates at the pub. We get yelly, we get, fiery, and then we have fun and we laugh and we slap each other on the back. It's the whole point of this show is it's wow at the pub, and I would like to think for the most part we achieve that.
Yeah, the more boneheads, the better. The firmer the stances, the better. It's just fun, and then no one's right or wrong. Like, you can call something shit or you don't like it, and someone else loves it. Who cares?
Mate, thank you so much, Yubi. Did you get a couple of coffees in during this one?
3 coffees, and now half of the first beer while the UFC gets going.
Good man. Who's your tip to win the Masters?
Rory's got to bottle it from here, but I don't mind Bryson, and Bryson's in Rory's head. So
he's in his head, right here.
From when Rory last bottled it. So we'll see. It's going to be a good last day.
Very good.
I was going to say, I'm the opposite. I've been listening to the last pods after being on so many, and I listen to it forgetting that it's not live. Then I hear things that piss me off, and I try to join the Discord, and then realize that I'm listening to an episode from 4 days ago. Fuck. Like, I can't get in there and start talking to people.
What's it like listening when you've been a guest so many times? What's it like when you're not involved and you're listening?
It's nice. Like, it's nice to... I guess it depends. Like I say, sometimes you'll hear things you go, no one mentioned this one particular thing, and then I would have liked to have mentioned it and then seen where the snowball went. But it's I've had a holiday from arguing on the internet with people, but now I'm back.
Very good. No, it's
with
good.
A fire under my ass.
It's good to have you back, mate. It's fucking awesome. We'll get a beer with you, me, Hunk, and Marcus and Voodoo soon, and we'll put it on the show and have a laugh.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, boys, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you all next week.